On today's show, Royals getting a new stadium. Hopefully there's parking. One easy way for the Chiefs defense to improve, and Reed at Mahomes talk live at noon. Special guests include Josh Klingler at 12:30. Now two guys who subscribe to No Days Off, Cody Tapp and Alex Gold.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome in. It is Cody and Gold. And I just hope Nick's all right. I don't know if the girlfriend wanted you to get some Taylor Swift tickets. I just hope that you're going to be all right. If you see Nick on a computer the entire day today, it's because I think they're giving it another go for your Taylor Swift tickets on Ticketmaster.
I missed this whole thing. I just saw people were mad at Ticketmaster yesterday.
I figured that your girlfriend would want to go see Taylor Swift. But, yeah, it was a disaster, I guess, on Ticketmaster yesterday where people were in the queue for 5 hours. By the time they got there, that some of the tickets were going for thousands and thousands of dollars. Just was a disaster on Ticketmaster.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
For all the Swifties out there.
I thought you were part of that crew.
You know that I'm not a part of that crew.
I think he's actively said he's not a part of that.
But his girlfriend maybe is.
I don't think she is. I think she's just, a fan of Taylor Swift.
So she would go to the concert, though, if you got her tickets.
If I got her tickets, I think to be
okay. But you didn't
not get her tickets.
Gotcha.
Fit to report.
Gotcha.
Did she want you to? Well, tough to say then, huh? Okay. Just check.
Hey, by the way, thank you guys for taking this opportunity at the top of the show to check in on my relationship status.
No problem, man.
Is that not what you would prefer?
It just seems rather arbitrary, You guys not have anything else prepared for the start of the show?
Well, we were going to talk to you.
But keep talking about this if you want.
That's it. Just wanted to make care of.
Yeah.
All right. Yep. I think we're good.
Nick. Let's talk about the stadium. Nick's already concerned about parking, clearly. Very concerned. But
where are people going to park, Gold?
Yeah, we'll get to the look. Throughout the show today, we're going to talk a ton about the stadium project and the clear 4 or 5 most popular questions that people have about the future for the Royals, the future for the Truman Sports Complex, downtown, ballpark district, all of that, like the main concerns. We'll get to that in a second. But first and foremost, you're probably not surprised to hear this, with the Royals announcing that they're going to build a downtown ballpark district, near downtown, $2 billion project for everything that includes hotels, the ballpark, residential, potentially restaurants, office space, you name it, right? What we have seen in other major metropolitan areas, right? If you've been
a lot like the Atlanta one, which they said that they've been wanting to model theirs after for years now. They've been reportedly infatuated with it, right?
Yeah, that's the connection. It's called the Battery down there in Atlanta. But even if you go to Cleveland, where, of course, John Sherman was part of that organization, and their downtown has both their basketball arena and their baseball park. I think it's Progressive Field. I think it's still called there. And they have kind of the same setup as well. And this is what a lot of cities have done when it comes to baseball. Downtown baseball, you're talking about 162 games in the entire season, but you're talking about 81 games at home. And so how do you get people out there to make it a destination, right? And that's what
outside of just baseball.
Yeah, and that's what they're going to be trying to do. We're going to get into the specifics and everything in a second, but I think this has always been the plan, right? I mean, the idea that when John Sherman bought this team a couple years ago, and the same thing we've discussed even with other teams in sports that are for sale, like the Washington Commanders that maybe end up being for sale, which is the opportunity knowing when you buy a team, is there an opportunity also to build a new stadium, to build a new district? And that's how you can recoup some of the money you spent as an ownership group on the team by a ballpark district that you would likely then own that office space. They would own the areas around that, and that's the huge revenue opportunity they, as an organization, as an ownership group, could bring in as well. But I love it. Doesn't mean that there's not issues. Doesn't mean that there's not a lot of questions. Heck, we don't even have any clue on a timeline. We don't know the exact sites. We know it's going to be in KC Mo and downtown or near downtown. That's really all we know at this point in time. But I love it because it is what baseball has become in major metropolitan areas, and it is another, to me, step forward, not only for the Royals organization, but for the city, frankly. We know the new airport is going to open up in February. We know all these great events that are coming to our city, the draft, the World Cup. These are the type of decisions that move a city forward and not just hold you back because, well, that was cool and nostalgic 20 years ago.
I think from that perspective, it's obviously good. Saying we need a new airport so that we can keep up with other metropolitan areas. And it's not about, I know it's like looking at the neighbors or those things, but just forward thinking from a city perspective, you do have to continue to improve your city. Unfortunately, one of the things we had talked about with Kansas City is all of these things were built at the same damn time.
Right.
So in like a 5-year period in the 60s and 70s, the Royals decided and the Chiefs decided and Kansas City decided to build an airport, to build 2 football stadiums together and to have, or a baseball and football stadium together and to have all the leases and everything expire all together in one little happy bow, which is making it certainly interesting for a time where Kansas City's building a new airport, wants to build a downtown stadium, and the second that Kansas City and the Royals have a downtown stadium project, you can safely assume that the Chiefs won't step on their toes, but they'll be right behind them waiting for a massive stadium project to take place on the old site of Kauffman Stadium. Now, we said that this happened before, so there's things I love about it. I love Kauffman Stadium. I think that this feels like the minority feeling. I love Kauffman Stadium. I think it's a beautiful stadium. I like going to it. If it remained their stadium, I wouldn't have an issue. But I still love the idea of downtown baseball for all the reasons you pointed out. In major cities, it's cool. It works. If you've been to any of the beautifully designed downtown stadiums in other areas, it's fun. There's a reason why it works and has worked for so many years in those areas, and I'm interested in it as a result of that, despite the fact I do love Kauffman. I've made it pretty clear on this show that I don't think that taxpayer dollars going towards it means that much to me, and I know that the figures of $2 billion is like jarring.
Yeah.
But it's because it's supposed to be not just the stadium, but all the things you mentioned. All the hotels, all the office buildings, all the things that they would put in addition to that area. And they're claiming, at least at the moment, that it wouldn't be an increased tax bill for Jackson County taxpayers, but instead what they already pay to fund the stadiums as it is. Now, they could wiggle that room.
Yeah, we'll see if that
language could be finicky in a way that makes them look better or whatever. We don't know. $2 million is a lot. It's a big price tag, but it's also pretty typically the price tag. We know the state of Missouri will chip in because that's the way these stadium projects work. Look at Orchard Park in New York. Like the state of New York is helping pay for a stadium in Buffalo. We know that Major League Baseball tends to chip in on these things a little bit, and then taxpayer. It's going to be a little bit of everything. I would just prefer it was zero taxpayer.
Sure.
But that's also not realistically how it works, and if it comes up for a vote, it'll pass.
Yeah, look, we have been talking about this for years because this isn't some new idea that suddenly, even though when John Sherman took over, we thought that maybe it would fast track, but we could go back even 10 years ago. We know after Kauffman and Arrowhead had their renovations, it's been well over 10 years now. At that point in time, we still knew there would be a question eventually of whether or not you could just keep renovating or you could build a new ballpark. Same with Arrowhead. Renovate Arrowhead or build a new Arrowhead. That remains to be seen on their end. What we do know with the announcement yesterday is the Royals have said, we are done with Kauffman Stadium. Now, timeline, we don't know. 4 years from now, 7 years from now, we don't know that yet. But
you would think that they'd want it by 2026, right?
Well, because of the World Cup, you start wondering. The financial side isn't figured out yet. that's the tricky part.
It seems too quick.
January
too quick. 4 years.
2023 is in less than 2 months.
Yeah. 3 years to design, build, maintain.
Seems awfully quick.
Probably not going to happen.
Seems awfully quick. But this is the idea. If anybody has lived in Kansas City long enough, the idea of a downtown ballpark isn't some new concept. It's been discussed even since you and I have been doing this very show. It's come up multiple times. And whether it was the exploratory phase, now we're to a point where they were ready as an organization to announce that they intend to do this, as in baseball is not going to be played at Kauffman Stadium at some point in the near future. And they're seeking an opportunity in downtown Kansas City, Missouri, or near the downtown area. And, we know the sites are all in KC Mo. For those that were concerned about, like, oh, man, could they
threaten to go to Kansas, which they still could.
Now, I guess if things go really south with the vote and things like that, I guess that always is in the cards there. And would it help if the team was winning some games to ease some of the public conversations that everybody's going to have, as they should have, about a project like that, like this, sure. I don't think, hey, team keeps losing automatically means that it's not going to go through. But it certainly would help, I think, a lot of people, because it's a fair
Hey, we're investing in you. Invest in us.
It's a fair complaint. I see it on the text line and on social media, and anytime it's been discussed about potentially renovation even. It's like, well, hey, shouldn't they worry about the product on the field first and foremost? First of all, you can do both.
That's not how businesses work.
So you can do both, but also it would ease some of those frustrations if you told me the team showed some progress this coming baseball season. I don't think it will have a direct result on, hey, the votes eventually when it goes to a vote, it's going to pass because of this on-field success. I really don't think it will have a huge impact, but it definitely helps on the PR battle a little bit in their end. If the team isn't in last place in the AL Central, the 2 months before they're asking for a vote on a $2 billion project.
I would think so. And it's just the same thing. It's like, you spend some money on the team before you ask us to do it, right? I understand the fan sentiment there.
Sure.
Like, your payroll's $70 million. Get to 100. Pretend like you care about this and not just your big fancy building, right? That's how people want to treat it. But we understand that that's not going to slow the progress here. It's just not. Like, realistically speaking, they're not going to change those things just because they're not going to change the way they fully operate as a business because they want this part of their business to also be successful. That's just not realistically how it's going to work. But I do understand it. Just real quick.
Yeah.
It is important in things like this to be very clear about the things that you're saying, to make it clear the talking points that you think are important, and I guess more importantly, to make sure that there's no confusion. Because when people see $2 billion, like, they want us to pay $2 billion. Like, no, that's not what they're asking for. They're not asking for taxpayers to straight up shell up $2 billion. They expect, they have things like they expect the construction cost of the stadium to rival that of whatever it would cost to build a new stadium because of aging concrete or a million other reasons that they've given. But also, dude, John Sherman's got to shorten that letter. Guys,
So
that was so many words.
I mean, that was Grant Nicholson. He tweeted it out, and it was the exact thing that I was getting ready to tweet, the meme of, yeah, I ain't going to read all that, but I'm happy for you, or sorry that happened. 3 pages
so many
of an open
words.
letter, 1 page max, Gold. Whatever you're about to say, 1 page max.
So it was very long.
They were trying to make their point very clear.
So that's the thing. So it was a very long letter, but I can appreciate that the owner of the team was trying to explain their whole thought process of how they've gotten to this point, what information they've learned. Here's what they're looking for. Here's still what needs to happen. Like,
just put it in a podcast next time, honestly.
By the way, someone says, of course the state of New York is helping the Bills. They're the only football team in their state. What do you think the Chiefs are when they come around? Like, I mean, that's the thing. Like, I understand, but the state of Missouri helped with the Cardinals then, or with the Cardinals then, and they will here too. If the Cardinals want a new stadium, just so you know, state of Missouri will help.
Let me ask you guys this. What is, for a new stadium, whether you think it's just like something that you want to have or something that you need to have, what is the one amenity aspect of this new stadium, whether it's the stadium or itself or the area surrounding it, that you think is an absolute must-have?
I think that the reason why I am so excited about this project, whenever we finally learn exactly where it's going to be located and everything, is that right now we all know Kauffman Stadium itself is a great place to watch a ball game. It's incredible. We've all had some great memories there. The wild card game, like those are great memories. It's a great spot to go. But there's a gas station and a Taco Bell across the street.
You'd like some restaurants?
I would like the ability to go downtown, have dinner before at a variety of options. Afterwards, go grab a drink somewhere else and not have to be like, well, let's just quickly get out of the Truman Sports Complex, and then as we get closer to home, we'll pick up some food on the way home or something, or get dinner before we even head out in the area, or just I think that to me is the most exciting part about it, is it can be a true experience. And for people that also maybe are Royals fans, we know there's plenty of Royals fans in Iowa, in Nebraska, that come into town. Guess what? They can stay at the hotel right next to the ballpark, and they don't have to leave. They're all in one location. They're right there.
Cody, I don't know if you already have a random question of the day planned. I know sometimes you do. Sometimes it's just and so I want to.
I just don't know.
Let's not get caught up in it. Now, we're already getting some great answers from the text line, but can you please make that the random question of the day? Because the first 2 answers that we've gotten for non-negotiables: shorter toilets for people who aren't tall,
Shorter toilets.
and a barbecue fountain.
Like just all of them shorter or just a variety of toilet size options?
I think, variety. Like, let's get a smorgasbord of toilet sizes. Maybe one that's tall, one that's short, a regular one. Maybe let's bring back some of those old school ones that go all the way to the floor like you had in middle school. Those were great as well.
I think you have to do...
I know, the ones that are like
troughs. I think you have to do some level of homage to what is like the fifth oldest stadium in all of baseball for things that they like. Like, they're the only stadium with a vertical scoreboard. And immediately when people see renderings, and I know Gold got excited because he like 2 weeks ago, Nick, told us how much he loves renderings.
I do love a good render. I do love a good rendering.
So,
don't get him started on rendering.
Man, high quality rendering.
I looked at that rendering for quite some time yesterday as soon as it came out, analyzing it, which we can all relax, by the way. I'm sure that is far from the finished product. It's an artist rendering. It's not the official, like, whatever architect firm they're going to pick to design. That's not
It'll
that.
probably be
Only you could properly break down what type of rendering that was.
That was an artist rendering. So before people
different types of
I'm a rendering noob, personally.
So before people freak out that there's not a crown vision, let's relax until we actually see the final product. I'm with you, though.
I'm not sure exactly which way they're going to do it, if it's going to be incorporating the fountains in a similar way, or if it's going to have a vertical scoreboard. But that is something that makes Kansas City stand out as being something different.
I have follow-up questions to this texter who said, quote, I want an area where shoes aren't required. Why?
What do you want? What do you want? The old Watson's hot tub back out there too?
How many times?
Why?
How many times have you guys been at a baseball game and just thought, you know what, this is great. Wish I didn't have to wear shoes right now.
Never?
No, please.
Can't say that's ever.
Please keep the sandals at bare minimum, please.
Can we just get one trough for the people who are nostalgic? Can we just get one trough back?
One bathroom that's a trough?
It's like, hey, if you still are into troughs, behind,
So you want
behind
like the
section 240, we've got a trough dedicated
It feels like it's
bathroom.
inviting a certain crowd. Like,
so it's the 1999, the 1999 experience. If you want that as well, it's actually going to be in left field. So that section can do the wave on their own because it's not 1999 anymore. You guys can do your own wave in that section.
Wow.
And then behind there, you can have your trough. And then you can just have nostalgic items as well.
I've decided hating the wave is no longer cool. You just have to say nothing about it or like it. Being the person like the wave's stupid, be like, no one cares.
I don't think new stadiums abolish the wave. I think that
Unfortunately, they don't. Unfortunately, they don't. Yeah.
There's a lot you're going to want in it. But the fact that there's going to be a new current stadium at Riverfront, because someone says they want Riverfront, and a new downtown or near downtown stadium for the Royals, like that area, as much as like Power and Light, they tried to build that to save downtown. Just to be clear, before Power and Light, you never went downtown.
Yeah.
Like, at least now we occasionally end up down there, right? Like, we all somewhat show up there here and there. Before, you never found yourself downtown. Not for 1 second, not for 1 minute, under any circumstances. So that increased it. If you have a new Battery area like that in Atlanta, that will increase it. If you have a new current stadium downtown, that will increase it. So that at least, because for a city the size that we are, our downtown area isn't nearly as developed of some of the other cities. Like, take Nashville, right? Which is not way off in population size from Kansas City. Now, they have a live music aspect that cannot be replicated here in Kansas City. You're trying to create your own version of whatever you want, but you do have to have something that attracts people to a certain area. And right now in Kansas City, what would you say? If anybody's coming outside and they got 300 people, what is the main gathering area of Kansas City? What is it, the plaza?
Yeah.
That's not big enough. That's not a big enough
build the
draw.
stadium at the plaza.
Okay.
It's right there on Ward Parkway.
In all seriousness, I have heard a lot of people that have said, well, I'm not against the idea of having a bunch of things around a ballpark, but why can't they do that at Kauffman? Well, they've had 50 years to do that. Like
they originally kind of thought that was going to happen.
They were just about to get started.
They've had, that
could happen any day now.
They've had 50 years to do that, and so that's to me why.
By the way, why didn't they ever do that?
I don't have a good answer for you. I mean, I would argue the area itself didn't develop.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. Because originally,
there is that one. If you take the back route, if you try to go around the stadium, there is that one junkyard.
Believe it or not, the Denny's did not spark a huge development.
If you want to do a flashback rendering, Nick, the original, the rendering for Kauffman, when they did the big renovation, when they had the huge renovation project, was that there were going to be like condos back there. Like back on left field, they were going to put some buildings. That rendering thought, we'll do it now. They didn't. I mean, just like to them, when the Royals say they think the estimates to renovate and maintain and keep up Kaufman is the same as going downtown. Is them telling you the same as we're going to renovate it, upkeep, and fix the concrete, and we were going to build some stuff around it. And they're like, that was going to cost us just as much as it was to build something around a downtown area. Again, I think it is forward progress for the city. I'll no idea is perfect. We talked about the tax
and there's a lot of
implications
questions. There's still a ton of questions. We're going to try to get to the four things I think we've all noticed that have been asked. Obviously, the tax situation has been a huge topic. Parking, in all seriousness, which you know my feelings about that. No matter what city I live in, whenever there's a stadium project, everybody freaks out about parking. We'll get to that, and we'll take your text when it comes to that. And also, I think it's interesting. Like, what does it mean for the Chiefs, and what does it mean for Arrowhead? Because I think it does have an impact on what the Chiefs are going to be able to do, whether it is building a new stadium where Kaufman is now and building their own little district kind of, or whether or not it's a renovation of Arrowhead, or of course they can potentially still end up in Kansas. Like, these are all things that are on the table talking about the Chiefs. This announcement yesterday definitely impacts what the Chiefs may or may not do.
Yeah, they're just waiting for their moment. They're waiting for the Royals to get far enough along in their project to tell them when they're going to build their stadium so they can go to the next thing. By the way, the Chiefs play a divisional game this week, which is, I guess, a bit surprising because it doesn't have nearly the juice we thought it would. I don't think under any circumstances I could have predicted that the AFC West would be this big of a disaster. The Chiefs, Gold, are minus 1250 to win the division. It's not even Thanksgiving. Do you know how hard that is to accomplish? There's only one team in the NFL with better odds to win the division. That's the Vikings. And their division's even worse than the Chiefs. This was supposed to be competitive. And instead what we got was two incredibly poorly mismanaged teams. The Broncos and the Raiders look like they have no idea what they're doing, don't look close to being able to save themselves, and have put so much resources into being good now, I don't see a way in which they can get better sooner. And the Chargers had the same problems they had last year. Do you trust their head coach? Can they stay healthy? And the answer to that is probably not and absolutely not. You probably can't trust their head coach, and you absolutely shouldn't be trusting that they will stay healthy. This turned into a mess way quicker than I was anticipating.
It's great news for not just this year, but long term, as you're alluding to there. I mean, the solution in Denver is only one thing, and that is somehow Russell Wilson turning into, a bare minimum, at least a top 15 quarterback. At least that. He's not that right now, as we know, because they're locked into that for till 2026. That's the bigger problem than even their head coach. The Raiders, they don't have a long-term quarterback option. Their coach might get fired. They went all in with some of the salaries, some aging players as well. That's not their big problem. Is their defense out there in Las Vegas more than anything else. And then we know the Chargers. Yes, we all agree they still have the quarterback, but just like they're always hurt. I'm not sold on their head coach, and it's still. We've been talking about the Chargers for years. I didn't think it was possible for us to truly have a possibility of a Chiefs run in the AFC West like we saw Brady in the East, because I said, well, the East was crap for so long. We're going on 7 years here pretty soon for the Chiefs in the AFC West. Now it's going to take, I think with double that still to go to get to the Brady East domination.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
it doesn't.
I don't know, man. They're well on their way. I
still wouldn't put money that would be the case, because 7 years is a long time. Another 7 years.
I know, but remember what I said this year is like, if they win it this year, when are they going to lose it?
But the division's not even what we thought it was going to be, and so if that's the case, like, why can't they win it for 10 straight years?
They can.
Like, why can't they? Yeah.
This was the conversation we had before the season started. I said, if everybody does all this and they don't win the division, then they're never going to. And I know never is not like me just loosely saying it's not going to happen for a while, because you're too far in. Justin Herbert's going to have to get paid, and the Chiefs will have already reset this thing and put themselves back into a good position. They are starting so many more rookies than the other teams to start this year. Like they've got 5 on the defense, 3 on, they're starting over almost everywhere. No matter what they have to rebuild, it's less than every other team in their division, and they already have the best coach and already have the best quarterback. Like this is how, even in the Patriots, for the few times that they were tested, which was very little, by the way, in the run in the AFC East, because so many of those teams are so bad and nobody had a quarterback. And the Chargers, to me, are still the only real threat because they're the only team with a quarterback I believe in going forward. Like, maybe if they get a really good coach or make a couple of good drafts, things could happen, right? But that's going to rely on years, Gold. The Chiefs have the division locked up for the next 2 or 3 years at this rate, because it's going to take years of drafting to solve any of these teams' problems. And the Chiefs have drafted really well each of the last 2 years, which means they're already a step ahead of you.
Right now, the Chiefs minus 1250 to win the division. Massive favorites. It's week 11 of the season, guys. It's insane that they're already minus 1250. That Chargers loss on Sunday Night Football was so big because even if the Chiefs were to lose on Sunday to the Chargers on the road, like they still got that lead. They're still in a good spot, but they can really wrap this thing up on Sunday. And they're the only team you were even remotely concerned about. Up next, so there's one thing, if the Chiefs could start doing, it would really change the entire conversation about this defense. We'll explain what that is next. Back here on Cody and Gold, just getting started on a Wednesday. Alex Gold, Cody Tapp, Nick Schwartz with you. Reminder, Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, you'll hear from both of them right around 11:45. It'll be the first time we hear from Andy since the game ended on Sunday, and therefore maybe some sort of an update on Juju Smith-Schuster, who we know is in concussion protocol. Also, how about McCole Hardman? He was dealing with that abdominal injury, kept him out of the game on Sunday against Jacksonville as well. So those would be the two most notable things that I think everybody wants to hear about, is where they're at on the health end of things. And also, I guess for that matter, right tackle, because Andrew Wiley got hurt in the game. And then we saw Prince do a really nice job filling in. So just there's a lot of things to get caught up on and see where status is injury-wise for the Chiefs heading into Sunday's game against the Chargers.
Alex, I don't want to call anybody out, but
Yeah.
I've noticed since yesterday and today, both of you guys have solely been referring to him as Prince. Is it because Prince is a one-name type of thing?
Yeah, it's because it's way easier to say that than say his full name.
I was like,
Yeah.
is it because you guys are afraid of saying the
Well,
last name?
because we did, even when Laurent Duvernay-Tardif was here,
went LDT.
Yeah, it's one of those. That's all it is.
We
Definitely just to make it easy.
We did commit the second they signed him to calling MVS.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Just
And then he said it was Marquez. I'm like, another chance to screw it up, so I'm definitely going to go MVS.
Well, also, we know what happened when somebody got his name wrong.
All right, well, the name is Marquez, by the way.
I'm sorry.
I don't want to get the wrath
That's
of
right.
MVS,
We
man.
do not want that to happen one bit. We'll get to Nick's notable notes here in about 15 minutes or so. But it's pretty wild that there's one area in particular that if this defense just improves a little bit, then we're really cooking, and it has to do with the red zone.
Here's the problem, is that I don't think it's going to fix, but let's explain there here first. We've talked a lot about it. You have been a big advocate for, at the end of the season, the only thing you care about is points allowed per game.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about yardage and all those things, and yet we find ourselves in a weird position where we both think the defense is playing better than the points allowed per game, because the points per game allowed, not good.
Yeah.
It's not good, Gold. It's in the low 20s. We wanted it to be better than that. We expected it to be better than that. Anybody else realize that the Kansas City Chiefs are third worst in the NFL in red zone touchdown percentage allowed? They are allowing a red zone touchdown percentage at a clip of 70%.
And yeah, again, I think we all do think that they're playing much better, and I think they are a better defense, and there's more optimism around this defense. 2 years ago in minicamp, not this, but 2 years ago in minicamp, with different guys on the field when Anthony Hitchens was still here, that was their huge offseason focus. I remember.
Well, it better be a focus again.
Yeah, I mean, that was their huge offseason focus. Like, hey, we have to get better in the red zone. That was 2 years ago, and that is still an area of focus. Now, the reason why there's more optimism around it, Cody, is because that was happening with a bunch of veterans. Now you can at least make the case that at least it's this red zone defense, and there's a bunch of young players. You would like to think that guys like Karl Loftus and Trent McDuffie and others can get better as it goes on. In our conversations just yesterday when we were having about the defense, I do wonder if some of that does level out later on in the year because of competition that they're facing. We mentioned up until the Jags game, that was the first opponent they had played that did not have a winning record from the year prior. So does the schedule level out? We know they have the second or third easiest schedule the rest of the way. I think some of that will help that number that you're bringing up.
Yes and no. They were 21st last year in the NFL. They allowed a touchdown 57% of the time. They were certainly better than a majority of the teams. I'm sorry, 17th last year. So, I mean, they were just simply, but again, they were a veteran team. I'm not sure that, because part of the issue, I would say, for most red zone related defensive teams, and this was the problem when the Chiefs had veterans too, if you're really bad at stopping the run, typically you're not particularly good at being in the red zone, because it allows teams to run inside the 20 versus compressed passing lanes. You know, they can just run it at you. That solves their problem, because the teams around are the teams you would expect, by the way. That's what's concerning to you. The dead last team in the NFL is the Las Vegas Raiders. Right ahead of Kansas City is Miami, a defense that we have largely mocked. Arizona, Chicago, Detroit, all the teams ahead of them. The only one that's surprising in the mix in the bottom 10 alongside Kansas City is probably Tampa Bay, a defense that we largely have respected over the years, but have had injuries and had problems at some point. They're obviously just stopping people under all circumstance. It's weird. This is the inverse. Versus the last couple of years, Kansas City's actually been better at points mitigation versus yards mitigation. This time, they're actually slightly better. If you look at them where they yards per attempt or rushing, or even rushing yards per attempt, they're like middle of the road, or yards allowed per game. They are much better in those areas than they have been, and instead are allowing people to score on them in the red zone. Because if they improve that, if they were just middle of the road, they were like 15th this year. I did the math. 15th this year would be 58%. So if you would have said all the red zone stuff, I added it all up, they would have done less. They would be the 9th scoring defense in the NFL.
Yeah, it's interesting. I would love to know
9th.
In general also how many touchdowns have they given up in the fourth quarter when they were already leading by 2 possessions. And I did
not do.
The reason why I say that, we know what happened in the Cardinals game and the Bucs game in particular. So I just would be interested to know.
70%, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
no, that has to get better. But it's interesting because we all do think they're still playing better defense this year, and I really do believe that.
It's weird because they are and they aren't. There's still moments that they have because they're like a group full of rookies. But part of what you said. I've got a lot more understanding because like when it was Sorensen and Hitchens, I'm like, I can't watch this anymore. I can't watch Anthony Hitchens blow a coverage again or miss a tackle or not get to the outside. And at least with these guys, when they screw up, I'm like, you're fine, kid. Don't worry. It'll be good.
Well, it's that, but also, unless they are going to be a top 5 defense, of course they're going to have moments where they give.
Sure.
Now, the 70% red zone there, I'm sure if Spags talks later this week, if he's asked about that was a number they were concerned about 2 years ago. So clearly that's something that has to happen. But, this will get to our conversation we're going to have in about 25, 30 minutes or so about turnovers. And, if you aren't turning over people, then, well, they're getting in the red zone more often than not. And so you're gonna be in a spot where if you're not able to turn them over, that's not going to help your percentage in the red zone, either.
Well, and that's certainly part of it because that is something we can get to, but that's certainly part of their issue still and remains part of their issue overall. But it's just not. I'm not going to make that the bigger thing out of the available options. Like to me, it's the red zone defense has been bad, and I think largely we haven't noticed it. Because the Chiefs score a lot of points, Gold. They've won a lot of games, and we feel better about the defense. Yeah. But it has been bad.
Yeah, last year it was 57%, and we're halfway through the season. It's at 70s. We'll see.
70% is a crazy number to let people score anytime they get inside the 20.
It's the third worst in the league right now.
The Chiefs are the best team at scoring inside there, or the second best team at scoring inside the red zone, and they don't hit at that clip. So they're allowing red zone touchdowns at a higher rate than they score them in the red zone, and they're better than anybody at that. That is concerning, right?
Yeah, I mean, this goes back to the optimism of also waiting for the finished product and all that. I don't think they're going to end up at 70% at the end of the season of touchdowns given up in the red zone.
And I guess that was a bit of a lie because they scored 74%. But they're essentially allowing everyone to score at the same percentage they do, which is weird because they're one of the best teams in the league at doing that.
And yet then you look, because of Patrick Mahomes in this offense as well, he's won 24 straight in November and December. We always cliche for years like, man, just be playing your best football in December and January. That's what they do. That's what they do.
Where
under
is
Patrick
this in
Mahomes.
his list of accomplishments? Just so you know, the record behind him is 17 consecutive.
Yeah, so he's blown it apart.
November, December games. So he's won a full half season more than the next closest person during that run. It's got to be up there, right? Like when we talk about 50 touchdown, 5,000 yards season, that's probably above it.
Yeah.
Or winning a Super Bowl in his second year as a starter, that's above it. But it's like top 10, right? Dude, winning that much in December and November is a wild statistic.
Oh, it's a wild one, but because he's so accomplished already and we're still on the front end of his career, it won't end up probably being one of those that is first top of mind for a lot of people because we know in September he's pretty damn good. We know October, for whatever reason, has been the rougher month. When he's averaging 12 or 13 wins a year, which is what he's doing in his career, and he's hosted the only time in the playoffs he's played, he's been in AFC title games. That's all he knows. I mean, when you're this damn good, like, he's going to win a lot. He's going to win a lot of these November, December games. And, yeah, it's definitely what you would rather have than me telling you that they are so great only in September, but they struggle in December. No, it's that October month where they're kind of maybe tweaking
it's like he gets
things.
Bored or something? What is it? Great in September, great in November, great in December, struggle in October.
Tweaking things, adjusting it, and then post-bye week, and then they rev up again, and they add some new wrinkles. In this case, they bring in some new pieces maybe at the midway point of the season. And this year, Tony's that example, and then they roll. I mean, that when you're the best quarterback in football, when you have the best quarterback in football, you're going to win a lot of these games.
But nobody else has done this.
I understand. But you're asking me where I rank it. It's not going to be in his top 3 accomplishments in his career, if that's what you're asking. There's these things, MVPs and Super Bowls, and AFC title games, divisional titles.
AFC title game appearances 4 in a row.
Seven divisional titles or whatever it's going to end up being.
I think it's on par with that. Like the divisional title thing, depending on where it is right now.
Yeah, now it's not at
To
7.
me, it's more impressive the number of consecutive November and December games he's won than division titles he's won.
Really?
Now, look, when those two things settle each other out, let's say he loses the next game in December, they lose this weekend, right? And it stands at 24 and he ends up putting the division title race at 9. No, I'm not going to be having the same take.
And I know all 7, he hasn't been a part of all those division titles yet, but he'll get, he's
Weirdly enough, you know that those two stats go hand in hand, right? Because they play a ton of divisional games in December. They win a disproportionately high number of divisional games, and that helps them win the division. Those two things are actually, weirdly enough, not mutually exclusive. Yep. The fact that he's undefeated in November to December is directly next to, directly next to what you would think is that same statistic, that same line of winning those games. Like, they're correlated, not separate. But I don't know, man. I mean, just that in its own right. The fact that he's won a season and a half straight in these 2 months.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
I know he's going to lose one eventually. This is like the September interception stat, but is he? Or is he just going to maintain this forever?
It's going to be on the long list of amazing things that he's been able to accomplish.
I'm trying to think about, what do you even 24 games? I mean, how many Decembers and November would that be? What do you get, 8 games a year? So we're going 3 seasons back before he
probably
last
8 or
lost
9,
in November.
depending on bye weeks and stuff.
By the way, he's 500 in January. They haven't played that many games as far as regular season games in January. We know his record in the postseason is very good, and his record in February is 1-1. So pretty much from November on, you got about a 7% chance of catching Mahomes, give or take? Does that seem like about the number? Because it's not way more than that. It's about 7%. Because if it was more than that, then other teams would get him. I think some of this has got to be, I know we always go back to the same thing, but I'll give Andy some here too. I think, and Spags, as much as we talked about, what are the things that get better in the second half of the Chiefs for sure? Their offense. They get more used to what they're doing. They run different sets. They're more complex. They change. And the defense, right, has consistently gotten better. Spags probably deserves his little piece of the pie here, I guess, too, if we're talking about 24 consecutive November and December wins.
Gotta write something down.
Nick's notable notes.
All right, guys, it's that time of the week where we take a look at some rankings. Let's rank stuff. And it feels like the NFL MVP race is crystallizing somewhat, only if because Patrick Mahomes seems to be pretty sizably ahead of whoever else you have at 2 and 3. So right now, 25 touchdowns. That's the most in the NFL by 5. And just 6 interceptions. It was him and Josh Allen, but the turnover bug starting to pop up for Josh Allen. Now they've lost 2 in a row, which I feel like puts Mahomes, firmly in the driver's seat at this point in the season. It could change a lot, but at least as of right now, he is the guy, and then it's everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah, we know how quickly things can
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, we know how quickly things shift. But as of today, yeah, it is his race to lose as of right now. If he not only wins football games, but if he keeps on this path of where he's projected to go, he limits the interceptions, then he's now ahead of Allen. Allen's the guy that has to catch him now, versus before you're like, well, you need Allen to slip up in order maybe to leapfrog him. Allen's already slipped up. If Mahomes just keeps doing what he's doing, Allen won't catch him. Tua's really interesting here as well.
He's who I have at number 2, by the way.
Yeah, just a week and a half ago, he was 25-1 to win MVP. He has the same odds as Josh Allen now. They're both 5-1. Mahomes is plus 120 over at FanDuel.
I think it helps him. One, he's putting up really good numbers, but also the fact that he's 7-0 in games he starts and finishes. I think MVP voters will pay attention to that. When Tua plays for his team, they don't lose. When he doesn't complete the full game, that's all their losses. All their losses are when Tua's not on the field.
So if we're talking about that third spot, I guess there's a handful of names you could throw in there. None of them seem like they have that great of a case over anyone else. Josh Allen's still in the mix because the numbers are impressive. Jalen Hurts, the numbers aren't quite as impressive, but when you see what that team's done and how steady he's been, you probably throw his name out there. Geno Smith even, I think, is in the mix.
Really? See, I think it's down to 4. I think it's just 4 guys.
Allen, Mahomes, Tua,
Hurts.
Yeah.
I think it's those 4 now.
You don't think anybody else between now and
if you gave me them in the field, I'd probably have to give you...
At one point, I thought Lamar. And the Ravens have a path to get to the number 1 seed based on that schedule. And if Lamar gets hot, I could see his odds improving. But I really think if you just gave me those 4 guys versus the field, I would obviously feel incredible. I think it's Mahomes, Allen, Tua, and Jalen Hurts at this point.
Hypothetically, you know where I'm going, Gold, and I know you're not going to like it.
What about running backs? You're going to go with what about running backs?
You know, bring up Travis Kelce. That's what you should bring up.
The disdain for which you speak of non-quarterbacks is offensive.
For MVPs, yes.
It's offensive.
For MVPs, I only talk about quarterbacks.
So we saw the big machine.
We saw a historically productive season from Cooper Kupp a year ago. Now, he had an extra game, but he still fell a little bit short of Calvin Johnson's single-season receiving record.
Yeah.
A bad game for Tyreek Hill. Only 40 yards receiving after averaging...
Yeah.
he averages still, I think it's about 140 yards per game so far this year. Just give me the stat line. Give me the stat line that Tyreek Hill would have to reach to even be in consideration for not Offensive Player of the Year, for MVP.
2,000 yards, 15 touchdowns. Well, God, that's not enough. That's what Kupp had, right?
Kupp last year.
3,000 yards and 40 touchdowns. I don't know, Nick. The numbers, the limit does not exist, if that's what you're looking for.
It's unobtainable. Why do you guys think why do you guys think that it is possible for non-quarterbacks to win the Heisman, but it's impossible for NFL quarterbacks? I mean, the game is the same. The impact that quarterbacks have over receivers, pass rushers, running backs, whatever other position you want to throw in there, is the same in college that it is in the NFL, is it not?
I disagree.
Why do you say that?
I think because of the talent level in the NFL, that difference of the 10th best quarterback in the NFL and the number 1 quarterback in the NFL is still actually pretty large in the NFL. College football, like you've explained it yourself this year with the Heisman race. For 3 weeks, you thought it was Hendon Hooker, and then now we're back at there isn't a clear-cut top quarterback in the league, whereas in the MVP, it is the margins for the top 3 guys or so. It's so difficult to get in that category. Whereas I can list you 10 quarterbacks in college football, and they're all how big of a gap is there really between Stroud and the 3rd best quarterback in college football?
And it's also just, it's history, man. There hasn't been a non-quarterback to win it since the year 2000.
They
used to give it to running backs occasionally, and then they just stopped, Nick. They just stopped. It's done.
It's the MVP, but it's really the quarterback of the year. And then the Offensive Player of the Year is the best non-quarterback.
Yeah.
The best non-quarterback.
And if they called it that, we'd all be fine.
Let me ask you this. What if there were a season, and again, we haven't seen this. I don't remember the last time seeing this, but what if there were a season where we saw, and it's going to be tough to do as long as Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen are playing, but if we saw a team that was clearly the number 1 team in the NFL, let's just imagine in a fantasy land that the Giants were everybody. We were talking about the Giants as being the number 1 team in the league. Nobody can stop them. Nobody can slow them down. Their best player would have to be a running back. Would that get it done?
No.
Like if Saquon ran for 2,500 yards and 30 touchdowns? Because those are college numbers, right? Because we do see guys. I think Derrick Henry, the year he won the Heisman, he's the last non-quarterback to win the Heisman. He had 2,200 yards and 28 touchdowns.
28 touchdowns is such a big number.
But that's what we saw Sean Alexander and Priest Holmes do.
And Marshall Faulk, the last non-quarterback to win it. He set the single-season touchdown record.
Yeah, I know it's a hypothetical, so we're assuming they're the best team, but I would just in the NFL, the best team that we all agree on is dominant won't be the team that doesn't have the quarterback playing at that level. Because I would just pinpoint Tennessee last year. They were the number 1 seed. Nobody thought they were the best team in football. So that hypothetical you gave me almost played out last year. Derrick Henry, if he would have stayed healthy, I know you were trying to make the push for Henry. He was not going to win MVP even if he kept winning on that track. And they had the number 1 seed in the AFC.
Which is interesting because last year, at least in recent history, is one of the seasons where the MVP race, it's not like it was Aaron Rodgers to lose for the last 2 months of the season. We just kind of got to the end of the season. The Packers went 13-4, and he had really impressive numbers, so they gave it to him. But it wasn't like at this point in the season where you see Patrick Mahomes as that guy, and if they keep winning at this pace, it's going to be really tough to beat him unless he falls off and throws a bunch of picks.
There's just no way for a quarterback to lose it anymore, I feel like.
No.
It'll happen once, but it'll take a single season touchdown record coupled with
if the Giants, imagine if the Giants went 16-1 and then say that's what it would
Saquon
take.
had 2,000 yards, then
2,000 yards and 28 touchdowns.
He'd
And we'd be
get-
like, okay, you know what?
He'd get
and,
votes.
and it'd be split. He might
was
win
gonna
even,
say.
but it wouldn't even be unanimous.
No, you're right.
He would get votes, but yeah, I don't know if he would win. I still don't know if he'd win it. He'd get votes for sure. I just think
It
that's
would
where
have
we're
to
at in
be,
the league.
like you said earlier, like we see in college, it would have to be the absence of a ridiculous passing or a ridiculous
Yes.
quarterback season, which feels like that's never going to
Yeah,
happen, where there's just
yeah.
going to be no quarterbacks that you feel like are having great
The
seasons.
leading quarterback has 32 touchdowns and 4,400 yards. And you're like, that's not happening anymore.
Because in college, you'll get great quarterback play on bad teams, and that's how you get to the point where non-quarterbacks win it, where it's like, okay, well, this guy had great numbers, but his
He's
team
on a team we
lost
don't care
4
about, yeah.
games. They're not in the playoffs, so...
I mean, Kenny Pickett last year to a certain extent. You know, he had a really good college season, but
He's on Pitt, so nobody
mean,
cares.
Aiden Hutcherson finished second, I believe it was, or third. He was in the top 3, but he wasn't even in the mix until 2 weeks to go in the season.
Exactly.
that conference championship weekend changes everything for the Heisman race sometimes. It's pretty wild. All right, coming up next here, we get to the 11 o'clock hour. We get right back into the Royal Stadium project that was announced yesterday, or at least their intent to do so. But we've seen the 4 or 5 biggest questions everybody has around that project. We'll get to the biggest ones next. The Tigers have a downtown stadium. The Twins do. The Pirates do. The Rockies do. The Guardians do. And their ticket prices, believe it or not, were cheaper on average than the Royals were this season. So what I'm saying is, like, the idea, none of us know what the ticket, that's way down the road. I have no idea what the ticket price is, obviously. I can't tell you for sure anything. Nobody has that answer. But if you're automatically just saying, well, downtown means automatically going to be so much more money, not affordable to take the family. I don't know if that's true or not.
No, if it's sporting events, already kind of that.
But I can already. But what I can tell you though is like what we do know of other cities that are downtown. And again, in Pittsburgh, in Colorado, in Detroit, in Minneapolis, in Cleveland, all have downtown stadiums, and their tickets were cheaper on average than what the Royals were.
It's hard because and I understand it because those are going to be ticket prices, affordability, parking. Those are the same like 10 talking points, right? They're going to come up over and over and over and over again. And I understand that to a point, but God, man, when you just listed off the name of those cities, PNC Park is beautiful. Rocky Stadium is super cool.
Yeah, right there in Denver. Yeah.
It's like, I mean, look, we're not going to be able to see the Rocky Mountains outside the stadium,
Wait,
okay?
What? I thought Nick had the idea to have the rotating stadium. It was going to solve everything.
I was going to save that for the random question of the day when we got to non-negotiables. The new stadium.
Okay.
Well, we'll get to that in a minute, since that's exactly where Nick is still, at least on this point. But I think that two things can be simultaneously true. And this is where I know everyone's not going to stand the same, but I really think that this is how you should feel as most fans. I love Kauffman Stadium. I think it's a great place to watch a baseball game. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. And if I had to keep watching baseball there for the next 30 years, I'd probably be a happy person. And am simultaneously excited for what a downtown stadium is and will be, and why the Royals are choosing that venture. And then I'll be excited about everything that happens outside, because everything outside of the actual physical building itself sucks. It all sucks. There's nothing to do. There's absolutely nowhere to go. It's just a big, giant, concrete, undeveloped nothingness. And if you're going to tell me I'm going to have the choice of going down there and having those options, because, yeah, Gold, I think if you and I got off work at 3 o'clock and we're like, hey, we're going to the game tonight, and I don't have to pick up the kids, why don't we head down to the stadium at like 3:30 or 4? If we try to do that at Kauffman now, our only choices would be to sit outside the back of our trunk, crack open a 30 rack, and move on about our day. And at Arrowhead, the tailgating part is a much bigger part of it than at Kauffman. It's not that nobody tailgates, and I understand losing that ability and that's a big deal.
Tailgating is usually not a baseball thing. And
it happens in Kansas City because there is but the reason why I think it happens with baseball in Kansas City is because there aren't other choices.
Well, there's not other
For
choices.
football, I think it's a thing. It's a thing that we do.
There's not other choices, but also there's a gigantic parking lot, which takes me into the next, because I just want to go through, again, the 4 or 5 things that I think are fair and questions that everybody has about this project. And so you mentioned the parking lot with tailgating. So let's go into the parking thing, because that always, 3 years ago when it first came up that they might move downtown, when T-Mobile, or Sprint Center, I guess it would have been at the time, was being discussed, parking. Number one thing that I consistently see when it comes to the stadium projects, right? Like, that's a concern for people. Traffic, parking, ingress, egress, all that kind of stuff. And I've told you, no matter what city, so even if you were in a small market, you're talking about a minor league baseball stadium. When I was in Boise, people were freaking out about parking for that.
Was it downtown?
It was going to be. It never got done, by the way. The project never happened. But it was going to be a minor league baseball stadium downtown in Boise. It's a much smaller market, totally different setup. But there, parking was the number one thing people were concerned about. And I'm not saying like you should just not question it. But let me just ask this question, because I don't know what it's going to look like.
$2 billion and not figure out.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You're good. So,
it's just like you get frustrated with me.
I'm with you. So, one, there is more parking downtown than I think people realize. There was a really good graphic that was I tweeted out last night, and honestly, I apologize. I don't know who initially put out the map of parking downtown, and you would be surprised.
There's more parking than buildings.
And also, here's a novel concept. Parking goes underground as well. So just because it's amazing how that works sometimes, Cody. I know.
Excuse me?
I know. And parking can go
Nick,
up.
have you ever parked?
And parking can go up.
Have you ever parked underground? Let's confirm that the parking underground
I'm going to be
exists.
honest with you guys. I park underground every single day.
Wow. Every day?
Every single day.
It's not always just visible parking. And it is possible to have parking without just one gigantic lot that has 25,000 parking spots. You know, that it doesn't mean that there's not parking. And what you were about to say, Cody, is my biggest thing. None of us know the full plan. The Royals don't know the full plan yet. But all these other downtown ballparks have found a way to make parking work. It's going to look different. Well, why do you think we here in Kansas City would not be able to accomplish the same thing?
We have one of the greatest sports architecture firms in the world in this city. Something tells me they'll figure it out.
Why would you not think that Kansas City could figure out parking/transportation? Because I think that is a big element to this as well. The public transportation options, obviously, in the city have to grow. We talked about that with the World Cup. That's something that has to be fixed and continue to expand. But like the idea that, yeah, they're going to have this $2 billion project and nobody's going to ever be able to get down there. Like, no, come on now. Let's be realistic about the situation. I don't know what it ultimately is going to look like because, again, the Royals don't know ultimately what it's going to look like yet. But I don't.
They did see that. People freaked out about that rendering, though, because it didn't have any of the things they want. It didn't have crown vision. It didn't have enough fountains. It didn't have the things that they're used to. It seems hard for me to imagine that, and I understand, it's not like it's unreasonable to be concerned about some of the things. Like the price tag.
No, they're all fair.
The price tag and who pays for it is probably my biggest concern.
Definitely.
$2 billion, and the Royals said that that's in construction costs and maintenance fees in order to do it. They think it costs the exact same amount of money to do it at Kauffman. Now, I assume that construction part of it is like, we're going to build some of the stuff that we also want. What if we just try to do it here versus try to do it downtown? And they're saying it's going to cost the same, so why wouldn't we go downtown? Because downtown baseball has worked in so many different areas. I think that should be your biggest concern. How much it costs and who's going to pay for it. Because I don't think that that's a crazy thing to be trying to find out from the Kansas City Royals, a team who has been, from the very beginning, mentioned a public and private partnership in which ownership and the team will put in some of the money, how the state will probably be asked to put in some of the money, how Jackson County will be asked to be putting some of the money. They will go hit up Major League Baseball for some of the money. Or, I understand that there are questions that come with it, but I feel like the biggest, honestly, do you think that because I think in my brain, the biggest issue people have with it is that they like Kauffman.
Sure.
And I think that that's something.
It's that and the price tag.
That's a really tough thing to get past. I like the place we go already because it's not the Metrodome. It's not a dump, and we all know it's a dump, and we should all just burn it to the ground because this stadium stinks. It's hard because Kauffman is a beautiful stadium. That's the part that makes people walk away. I'm going to spend $2 billion for something I already like the other thing.
And they did a great job with the renovation that ultimately landed the All-Star game here in Kansas City. They did an incredible job with renovating, and that was obviously using public money to get that renovation done. Same thing with Arrowhead and some of the things that they had done out there. I think you're right on the Kauffman angle. That's a huge part of it because it's what we're used to. It's change, and I think that also just automatically for some people can scare some people away. Like you're used to what's worked for you. Like why there's nothing wrong with it in your mind. Why change? I don't know if they're the same people, but we heard very similar things, and to this day we still do.
About the airport?
About the new airport terminal.
Yeah, there were.
That's going to open up here in a couple of months. Because we all admit, KCI, from a convenience standpoint, it doesn't get any better, right? Doesn't get any better. You
walk
park
in 5 minutes 20 minutes, plane
20 minutes later, I'm through security. It's amazing.
Tops.
So that was people, and I feel like it's the same type of deal here with Kauffman. What's wrong with Kauffman? It works for me, but there is an element of status quo isn't always a good thing. And look, change isn't always a good thing either. No doubt. Change for change isn't a good thing either. But if you're trying to compete with other cities in this country and grow Kansas City and stay up to date and surpass them, we know this city is kind of on a heater right now with what they've got going on. I mean, you got the airport, you've got the draft coming, we got the World Cup coming, you got the Sweet 16 and Elite 8 coming to Kansas City.
Let's keep it going, right?
Right, and we know the current stadium, of course, is getting
Which
built.
Which will be the first professional women's stadium in the world.
Yeah, and then we'll see what the Chiefs end up doing because
they'll do something.
That's going to be impacted by what the Royals are deciding to do here.
Speaking of the Chiefs, I know that I brought this up maybe a couple of weeks ago, Gold, but I think it's worth mentioning again because it's one of their more noticeable flaws, and it feels like something that can burn them eventually. You had mentioned that you can turn the ball over 3 times against Jacksonville, not get any turnovers yourself, and still win. They won by 10. It was not particularly hard. They managed to accomplish it. But their lack of ability to get a turnover, which is in turn ruining their takeaway, giveaway margin, is a problem. They now have 10 giveaways to just 8 takeaways. Turnover differential is, Gold, you've covered football at pretty much every level. You were in Topeka and Wichita, you covered some high school football. You were in Boise, you covered a lot of college football. You're down in Kansas City, you cover the Chiefs football. What thing do you think that a coach talks about more than anything in relation to winning and losing? Turnovers and winning the turnover battle. Kansas City is the 6th lowest differential team in the NFL. Their inability to have a ball hawk, to have a guy who can go get the football, is concerning to me. The teams below them are New Orleans, bad. Colts, bad. Rams, bad. Packers, mediocre. Cleveland, bad. Those are the only teams who rank below them in that margin, and I understand that a one-game sample size is certainly skewing that. And if I just simply said that they were even in this last game against Jacksonville, they would be closer to top 12 or 15. But they need somebody to take over the I go get the ball duties. And I feel like the only logical answer to that is probably Trent McDuffie.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about with Nate yesterday when Nate Taylor from The Athletic was in studio. Is that the benefit that he can provide this defense as much as anything as well, not just being kind of a lockdown corner, but if they don't have any ball hawks back there, who's the most likely candidate? And since we haven't seen him not be that as well, it's kind of that's why you're still optimistic that that's something he can be because he's so athletic. He's had to be athletic. That's his game. That's why he got drafted where he is. He doesn't have the size. He's had to make up for it, and he does make up for it with his great athletic ability. And so, yeah, maybe that's an area where they can help them. We just mentioned the red zone numbers and the 70% touchdown rate given up. Well, what's one way to stop that? Getting some red zone turnovers. They probably lose. In fact, they do lose that week 2 game.
Any turnovers,
against
man.
They lose that week 2 game against the Chargers. If it's not for a red zone turnover,
correct.
Pick 6 from Jalen Watson against the same Chargers team the Chiefs are going to face this Sunday. Although I say the same Chargers team, they really are quite a bit different. So are the Chiefs now, based on injuries and where everybody's at. But of course, the same opponent directly. So yeah, I mean, McDuffie might be the answer to that. Got to continue to see. We're still talking about 10 quarters.
Does that become a big offseason need then? Because people, to me, ball hawks don't develop into ball hawks.
That's what I'm saying.
They either have those skills or they don't. So either you can go target a free agent who's good at that thing, right? Gets a million strip sacks or gets a bunch of interceptions or whatever. But we agree that is just an inherent skill that you possess. That's what we talked about with Justin Reed. Tyrann Mathieu is a ball hawk. Justin Reed is a good safety. He's not a ball hawk. They might be good in similar areas or good in different ways. But the one difference between switching from Tyrann Mathieu from Justin Reed is Justin Reed has never been a player who has gone to go get turnovers, and Tyrann Mathieu has been. We can talk about a lot
of safety.
There are plenty of things you do not miss in Tyrann Mathieu not being here, right? There's plenty of things that are just like, it's fine, whatever. But he does have 2 interceptions, and he always seems to find 4 or 5 or 6, and Justin Reed's never had more than 3 at any point in his career, which means that difference, those 1 or 2 picks, that might not sound like a lot, but from a turnover differential standpoint, from a game-changing play standpoint, it's big. That in 2 other games, he's out there getting some interception that the other team isn't, that a different player isn't. I feel like that might become an off-season priority. If all of a sudden we get to the end of the year, man, and they have 11 takeaways, which they're on pace for what? They've got 8 and 9 games, so I guess they're on pace for 16 takeaways on the season, 15 takeaways on the season. They got to find a way to improve that number as the season goes on. McDuffie seems like the only guy that I could be like, maybe he's a ball hawk.
Trash of the day.
All right, let's get to the trash of the day. I think this is something that we could accomplish with our listeners.
Oh, okay.
And it would be a world record, and it's something that's easy. Now, Cody can't participate.
Why can't I participate?
You're not able to. Sorry, man.
Here's
why.
Explain
Set this one out, man.
Yeah, you can't do this
one. Well, tell me first before I agree to sit out.
So a bar in Wyoming hosted a Guinness World Record attempt. A group of men clipped their beards together and created a 150-foot chain. You're out on this one, man. We can't. There's nothing to clip to. So
you don't think that
your beard can't get clipped?
Okay,
Nick, we could clip a string to it and tie it through.
Weeks?
I don't know. You had to stand there, not move, and basically the chain was measured 150 feet. It broke the record of 62 feet and 6 inches in 07. So we need to break 150-foot
beard clipping.
Yep. You should see some of these beards that were. I mean, some of these were pretty incredible. But you're out, man.
Mine could be the last beard.
It starts to clip.
But if in 2 weeks, maybe there'll be enough hair on my chin.
I think we
So
can.
wait, you want to
our
set a world
listeners,
record as a show with the listeners,
Yep.
and you want to exclude me?
We should have done this in November, this month. We should maybe next year we can set this up. Well, this is a world record that we can accomplish. It's basically get a string, and you basically have a string, and it's tied together through everybody's beard. 150 feet of it. Yep. In Wyoming, they just did this.
Yeah, I probably can't participate. You're gonna have to grow yours much longer too, by the way. It's
Yeah.
not like you got a real clippable beard
No,
right
I mean
now.
mine's just as long as Nick's though. So
No, Nick's is definitely longer than yours.
Mine's longer. Yours is just fuller.
okay. There you go.
to be
kind
able to
of
clip
A little
fullness.
bit of a backhanded
like,
compliment, if we're being honest.
From who?
From you.
What do you mean?
I mean, you're saying you have a better beard than me, which you do, but it didn't need to be said, you know?
No, I
You
said.
said it and he agreed.
I said.
I don't know. That's on him.
I said it's longer, and you said no, it's not longer. It's thicker, and I said, oh, okay, true. That's all I said.
Yeah, he just agreed with your assessment of your own beard.
Well, it's kind of like when I'm golfing with someone and they're like a 6 handicap and I'm a 17, and they're like, oh, we're about the same. I'm like, you're going to make me say it? You're going to make me say it?
The
No,
difference
we're
between
not.
6 and 15 is I don't regularly put up doubles. And you do,
Pretty much.
like all the time. I don't know why you would exclude me from this. Should we go back
I
as
don't know
a
if you
show
can
to
do
setting
it.
Guinness World Records? We tried a couple, remember?
I think there's a
We tried to
couple-
stack M&Ms once. I'm still pretty sure I broke that record for opening and drinking a full Capri Sun.
That was weird.
We
'cause
both
it seemed
broke that
too,
world
it
record.
seemed too easy. There's no way we were doing it the way you actually have to do it. It's either that. Here's the other option. There's a whole list of world records that have been set in the last week. It's either the beard one or in London, they got 325 people together in cleaned shoes at the same time. That was a record. That doesn't seem as fun.
So all we need
That
is
seems like the
326
opposite
people?
of fun.
That seems easy though. Yeah, we don't even. Yeah, you just need. You need 325 people to clean their shoes at the same time, and we set a Guinness World Record.
Is it rude to break someone's world record that was just set, or
No.
should we go for like an older one?
No,
no,
who cares?
there's
Are
no
you kidding me?
decorum in
Do you
world
not
record
remember?
breaking.
You don't remember here in Kansas City, Seattle tried to take the loudest stadium record. The next week, the Guinness guy showed back up to Arrowhead, and we beat their ass, and we still have it, 142.2.
They need a list of most easily breakable records. That's what I need.
I
the
feel
ones
like
that you
the
feel
shoe
like are-
cleaning is easy. I mean, you just need to get enough people. Like, there's nothing hard about cleaning the shoe. You need 325 people, 326.
It's going to be so boring, though.
very boring. The beard one's more exciting.
And you know how frustrated we're going to be if it turns out like 325 people like RSVP to come to this thing, right? And everyone's coming, and then a few people don't show. And then we got to we're begging like 5 more people to show up so we can break this record. That sounds terrible. Like, we need one that requires less than 325 people. I'll say that.
That is the trash of the day. Reminder, coming up in about 20 minutes, we're going to head out to Arrowhead. You'll hear from Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. But up next, it's the Chiefs' Red Half Hour, the domination of the AFC West, and why it is possible for the Chiefs to do something that Tom Brady did.
You're listening to Cody and Gold.
Chiefs Kingdom. This is Mitch Holtis, and welcome into the Chiefs Red Half Hour on Cody and Gold. Every day at 11:30 on your official broadcast partner of the Chiefs, 610 Sports Radio.
Chiefs Red Half Hour is brought to you by Greenway Ford. A new day, a new way at the all-new Greenway Ford. Coming up in about 15 minutes, we'll head out to Arrowhead, and you'll hear from Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. We'll get Andy's latest on Juju's health, McCole Hardman's health, Andrew Wiley's health as well. So it'll be the first time we've heard from Andy, really, other than the quick press conference after the game. Normally on Mondays he would speak. He did not. So we'll find out. I'm assuming Juju, of course, is still in concussion protocol. I don't think he could even get out of concussion protocol until Friday. And then McCole Hardman was already ruled out last Friday for this past Sunday's game. And for those of you that are watching on our video stream, you saw Carrington oddly dancing behind us. I don't know. He's in such a good mood because his Jayhawks won last night. So I think that's why he was really excited.
Why is he got to do that to you? There's just no need for it.
The Jayhawks found a way to get a win against Duke. And
he says he's going to hate this year more than most. I think because of Grady Dick, who's a very just generally early on hateable player.
The puns on his name.
Oh, it's incredible.
They've gotten worse.
So many.
Well,
so
there's
many.
Just they're not original.
See, I'm surprised to hear this
Did you
from
see
Nick.
Scott
I
Van
thought
Pelt
Nick would
come
be
down?
all about the Grady Dick puns.
Listen.
That seems right up your alley.
Okay, but you know this about me, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn. I don't take the low-hanging fruit just to make like the easy sophomore joke. I appreciate some creativity, some originality, like just taking like the saying his last name and then saying stroking it. Like, okay.
I agree with you, but again, on this very show 2 weeks ago, you talked about Grady Dick being wet. So, like,
I said his jumper was wetty.
Scott Van Pelt on SportsCenter last night said that he hit the back door, and then people immediately
and he got mad
because he's like, "What if I?"
He goes for F's sake. It's his last name. What do you want me to say?
Yeah. No, that's going to be an all year type of thing. But anyway, we can talk about them later. It is the Chiefs Red Half Hour. This AFC West, though, I think when we saw Russell Wilson join the division, we obviously know Herbert was here, and you saw, okay, well, the Raiders were a playoff team, and they added Devontae Adams. That, man, it's going to be tough to have any chance of going on a Patriots-like run through the AFC East. Now, they still got a long ways to go to get there.
They do.
But I'm willing to entertain it more than ever. If this year, where we thought this division was going to be what really the AFC East is and the NFC East is, where right now the AFC East has 4 playoff teams in it. That's what we thought we'd be sitting here talking about the AFC West. 3 or 4 teams have a chance to make the playoffs. That's what that division is. It's not what the Chiefs division is. Brady dominated a weak AFC East for a decade and a half. Mahomes hasn't been here for the full run here in the AFC West. But why can't he get to 10, 11 straight AFC West titles the way this is going? Think about the Broncos situation. Russell Wilson, they can't get out of that contract till 2026. Put aside the coaching issue. They can find another head coach, but it doesn't matter if they find another head coach unless Russell
Wilson's bad. No, it really doesn't matter.
The Raiders, who knows about their coach? Their quarterback isn't their long-term option anyway, even if Derek Carr was playing well. And then the Chargers, coach problem. Herbert's the real deal, but that team can't stay healthy. Keenan Allen's not getting any younger. He can't stay healthy even when he was younger. They got problems too. Well, yeah, why can't the Chiefs, who weren't supposedly all in this year, they're going to be in a better cap space next year. They got draft capital next year as well. They're set up much better than any other team in this division.
After they win the division this year, which I thought was a lock after week 3, and certainly have only strengthened my position since then, Gold, once they win the times in a row, which is the second longest streak in NFL history, I think they'll get to at least 10. Because 2 of these teams are lifeless with no hope, man. The Raiders, the last 3 drafts combined for the Raiders, have borne 0 fruit. And while one really good draft full of draft capital can propel your team, I think, Nick, maybe you pointed out the Jets were a really good example of that here recently, where like you have one great draft and you can kind of change your fortunes a little bit.
Well, I mean, look at what they're getting from their draft class this year, and it would have been even better if Breece Hall hadn't gotten injured. But you got Sauce Gardner, immediately a plus starter.
He's a top 5 corner in the league right now.
Exactly. How often can you get that? You get Garrett Wilson, who looks like he's going to be a stud receiver. Those are 2 important positions, and Jermaine Johnson, a pass rusher. I think he already has 3.5 sacks on the year. So those are 3 of the top 5 most important positions, and you nailed them in one draft.
But the Chargers don't pick high enough to really do what they just did. They can't just solve it in 1 year. And their quarterback's getting ready to get paid. And as Gold mentioned, all of their stars on offense are starting to get older. Williams, Eckler, it doesn't matter. They're all getting older. So we know that that's part of the issue here for them as well. And the Broncos gave up all their assets. They can't even fix it with a single swoop in the draft either. They don't have any picks. They gave them all to Seattle, who's apparently now just going to pick in perpetuity in the top 10, thanks to Denver, while they continue to win way more games than them. The AFC West is so much worse than I thought. I think I think that they're going to get to 10. I think they're getting to 10 straight AFC West titles. I know this is normally the day we do like the AFC West whip around, and that might be when we have this conversation, but I feel pretty good they're getting to 10 right now. Because how can you tell me that it's not going that direction when they were the team that was supposed to be in the most rebuilding mode as far as roster goes, and they are one win away on Sunday from being such a heavy favorite that no reasonable person could bid a single dollar on another team in this division. They'd have a 3-game lead and won both games against their main competition in the division, and the other two teams have no chance to catch them.
Yeah, they'd be where the Vikings are right now in the NFC North, where the Vikings are minus 3,000 to win the NFC North because of that kind of lead. The Chiefs are minus 1,250 right now as of last night to win the AFC West. They're more than in the driver's seat.
Is this just a lot of good plans gone bad? Because Denver's plan wasn't bad.
No,
It just failed miserably. What the hell? The Chargers is the one still is the most befuddling
but
all the time.
I don't think their plan was crazy.
No, they signed
J.C.
Khalil Mack
Jackson.
and
We
J.C. Jackson.
wanted J.C. Jackson here in Kansas City. The dude was one of the best corners in football. And they went out and got Khalil Mack. And Khalil Mack actually is having a good year for the Chargers. He didn't have anybody else with him. Bosa's hurt again. So that was always the thing about the Chargers in the offseason. Roster-wise, they should be one of the best teams. Should be one of those top 3 teams in the AFC. But it's the Chargers. It's the same old stuff. And
some of it's coach, though.
I mean,
it just is. Some of it's just coach. I don't believe in Staley as much as I did at the beginning.
And if the Chargers lose on Sunday, then they go to 5-5. Now, I don't think I won't write them off of a wild card spot yet at 5-5 because they do have talent and Justin Herbert. But they'll be if they fall 5-5, knowing what's going on with the AFC East,
hot seat gets a little hotter, doesn't it?
They put themselves in a really rough spot.
They wouldn't make the postseason if they started right now, right? All
They
4
would not.
AFC East teams would instead, including the Bills, who'd be the 6th seed somehow.
The Chiefs would be the 1, the Dolphins would be the 2.
Titans would be the 3, and every other AFC East team essentially makes up the rest of the playoff field, which is wild in its own right. But that's the way, this is such great news for Kansas City. Because there are better quarterbacks, good, better, young quarterbacks in the AFC than there are in the NFC. Everyone in the NFC is either old or not of the talent. They're like Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott might be the best younger quarterback in the entire NFC. Instead, in the AFC, where you have Mahomes and Herbert and Burrow, and maybe Jalen Hurts, I guess, in the NFC. But, you have a lot, and Tua now in the AFC gets to be a part of this conversation. There are a lot of quarterbacks who could stand in the way or could at least cause problems for you where that, you being in it every year thing doesn't seem as easy. But it is if you just stand atop your division every single year. Because winning your division every year, having a chance for the 1 or 2 seed every single year, that's what's going to drive Kansas City into this really big effort, be so far ahead of the rest of the teams. Because we thought the AFC East was going to be the pushover for the next 3 years, and it looks the opposite.
It does. No, it's amazing how quickly things have shifted. They are absolutely the division that we thought the AFC West was. Plain and simple. We thought we'd be sitting here, and you wouldn't have thought it was crazy on Week 11 if we said the AFC West had 4 teams technically in the playoffs. We'd be like, well, yeah, we thought Herbert, Mahomes, Russ, Derek Carr even. Oh, yeah, great rosters. And instead, it's the AFC East. That's why it's stunning. And give credit to what they've been able to do with the Jets and the Dolphins in particular. Obviously, the Patriots, we'll see if they fall off as well. But the biggest surprise there is what the Jets and to a certain extent, Miami has been able to do. I know bigger picture stuff we'll have the rest of the season to talk about. Does Miami have the ability to go on the road and go in cold weather?
And they've never won a playoff game, so
we
all just sit around here and wonder if they're even capable of it. Sure.
And Mahomes, we know, hasn't had to go on the road, but we know we can play in cold weather. That'll be the next big challenge for Tua. Is can he prove if they don't win the division, and if Tua has to go on the road to Kansas City or Buffalo or any cold weather city, Tennessee for that matter, which is very possible that the Titans could be the Dolphins in that first playoff game if the Dolphins don't end up winning that division.
I don't know that yeah, that's the key. If Miami doesn't even knock them off of their perch automatically.
Up next, we head out to Arrowhead and hear from Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. What's Juju Smith-Schuster's status? We'll get that from Andy Reid.
This is Cody
even help pay for implants. Plus, our wide network can make finding care even easier. Many of our Medicare Advantage plans give you a $2,000 yearly allowance to use toward in- and out-of-network dental services. Your plan may just put a smile on your face, then help that smile stay healthy. Explore Medicare Advantage plans at humana.com/discover or by calling a licensed Humana sales agent at 800-213-6403. Humana, a more human way to healthcare. Allowance amounts cannot be combined with other benefit allowances. Limitations and restrictions may apply. Humana is a Medicare Advantage HMO and PPO organization with a Medicare contract. Enrollment in any Humana plan depends on contract renewal.
You're listening to 610 Sports Radio from the Brown and Crouppen Studios.
When a cold comes on strong, knock it out with Vicks DayQuil Severe for max strength daytime relief. Just one dose of Vicks DayQuil Severe starts to relieve 9 of your worst cold and flu symptoms to help take you from 9 to none. With nausea, coughing, aching, fever, 9 medicine. Use as directed.
Everyone can boost digital confidence with NordVPN. All it takes is one simple click. NordVPN will block, hide your virtual location, and secure your devices from malware-infected files during downloads. It will also detect malicious websites. So catch the Black Friday deal for a 1 or 2 year plan at NordVPN.com and get 3 months for free. NordVPN, cybersecurity built for every day.
How would you like to come home to a bartender who will fix you any cocktail you want?
I'll have an old-fashioned.
I'll have a margarita.
Now you can with the Bartesian Home Cocktail Maker. Bartesian is a sleek machine the size of a coffee maker that makes premium cocktails at the touch of a button. Choose from over 50 different cocktails, from classics to the most exotic premium cocktails served in the best bars today. You'll always get freshly mixed, perfectly balanced cocktails with the Bartesian Cocktail Maker. And now get Bartesian's best Black Friday deal ever at bartesian.com/enjoy. Entertaining? The Bartesian is ideal for parties. No need to stock all kinds of individual mixers for complicated recipes. Every guest gets the cocktail of their choice in seconds. The Bartesian makes a wonderful gift for anyone who loves a fine premium cocktail. Now get Bartesian's best Black Friday deal ever. It's available right now, only at bartesian.com/enjoy. That's BARTESIAN.com/enjoy. Bartesian's best deal ever, only at bartesian.com/enjoy.
Hey, I'm Andy. If you don't know me, it's probably because I'm not famous. But I did start a men's grooming company called Harry's. The idea for Harry's came out of a frustrating experience I had buying razor blades. Most brands were overpriced, overdesigned, and out of touch. At Harry's, our approach is simple. Here's our secret. We make sharp, durable blades and sell them at honest prices for as low as $2 each. We care about quality so much that we do some crazy things, like buy a world-class German blade factory. Obsessing over every detail means we're confident in offering a 100% quality guarantee. Millions of guys have already made the switch to Harry's, so thank you if you're one of them. And if you're not, we hope you give us a try with this special offer. Get a Harry's starter set with a 5-blade razor, weighted handle, shave gel, and a travel cover. All for just $3 plus free ship. Just go to harrys.com and enter code JOY at checkout. That's harrys.com, code JOY. Enjoy.
Hey, Kansas City, it's Travis Kelce. Don't miss my brother Patrick Mahomes and every Monday at 2:15 right here on 610 Sports Radio. See you guys on Sunday.
KCSP Kansas City, WDAF HD2 Liberty, always live on the free Odyssey app. What's trending? All right, let's check in on the
Back here, it is the Chiefs Red Half Hour. We're going to head to Arrowhead in just a minute as soon as Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes step up to the podium. The Chiefs did mention right before Andy is about to step up that McCole Hardman, illness due to his abdomen, Juju concussion, Chris Lamond's concussion, Marquez Valdez-Scantling illness will not practice today as they get set to take on the Chargers. So we'll hear from Andy more on the kind of details behind that. But again, McCole Hardman, Juju, Lamond's, MVS not practicing today.
I guess the Hardman one is a bit confusing.
Illness to his abdomen.
Before it was an abdomen injury, right?
And I'm by the way, our Pete Sweeney, our Chiefs insider.
So his abdomen has the flu, maybe?
So I don't know if that's just the wording that they used, or maybe that's what the wording that Pete used. I have no idea. But I'm just reading Pete's tweet, who's there, and again, we'll hear maybe more detail on that from Andy in just a minute. But An abdomen illness. An injury?
I don't know how that works.
I'm going to need Andy Reid to talk, because if we try to make some sort of guess,
I don't know.
I don't think I'm going to. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to understand what's
abdomen
happening there.
illness. Huh. Okay.
Nick had an abdomen illness once, related to some sort of flu he caught at my house.
Yeah, there wasn't an abdomen illness. That's where the pain was concentrated, but
Someone says that. Someone would say,
diagnosis.
Frank Clark, does his stuff a stomach? His
No
is
kidding.
a stomach illness. We know that. Yeah.
Well, he's back. Frank Clark's back.
He
He'll
is.
practice today. Got a couple game break after, I don't know, his stuff 3 years ago or whatever the hell it happened. Years and years and years and years and years ago now. But it does feel like with the Chiefs this week, there's a chance they're going to be. I don't think it's unreasonable to assume that they are going to be shorthanded going into the Chargers game, more so than they have been in a few weeks. Because now that they got a 2-game lead and this game's got a little less pressure on it, doesn't feel the same need or issue to try to solve that in the moment, which goes a long way for them, I think. Like, if they don't have to try to solve that automatically, and they know if they lose this game, they are still ahead in the division, all their dreams are ahead of them, then it's different.
All right, let's go out and hear from Andy Reid.
Has the illness to his abdomen. He's getting better, but not back yet. 2 people in concussion protocol are Lamons and Juju, and then Scantling is just sick. He's got an illness. So Frank is back, which is a positive. And then we look forward to playing the Chargers. We know they're a good football team. They're getting some of their players back. We realize that. And so we'll have a good week of practice, get ready for them starting today. Time yours.
With Juju, and understanding that he is in the concussion protocol, Coach, what's your outlook for him this week?
Yeah, I mean, you take it day by day, but we'll be cautious with it. We're not going to do anything that we didn't do according to what the data shows, so, and how he feels.
As a league, with the things that happened this year around, with the Tua situation, all that stuff, much more cognizant are you guys of this than maybe you were 20 years ago when you started doing this?
Yeah, listen, I think the league does a great job. The one thing that amazes me about the league is they don't shy away from situations. So as tough as it can be, some people turn their back on things. I don't think the league does that. And this has been one of them. I mean, the time that we've spent at the owner meetings on protection for players, safety, in particular concussions, and soft tissue injuries. So I think it's come a long way. I think it will continue to develop as the helmets get better and the rules, the guys get used to the rules and the officials get used to officiating it and so on and so forth. So.
Coach, one of the things, just kind of following on what you were just describing, Bill Belichick, I believe on Monday or Tuesday, talked about being able to utilize a challenge after the 2-minute warning. I believe you're on the competition committee. What are your thoughts on that? And I think it's coming from some of the missed calls that the officials may have missed over the weekend.
Yeah, I'm on the coaches committee, not the competition committee, but we deal with that stuff. I don't have one way or the other. I haven't talked to Bill, so I mean, but normally if he says something, he's put some thought into it, and it's normally a pretty good idea. So, it's maybe something we look at in the offseason.
Coach, on Sunday, you mentioned a MRI for Wiley. I guess he's back to practice, so everything was okay with his elbow.
Yes. Yes. They braced it. You'll see him. He has a brace on it, but he feels pretty good.
Coach, I know you guys have always been aggressive, and we've asked Dave this a couple of times when he's been available. Dave told you like to be aggressive on the returns and everything when it's possible, but is the game evolving to where the kickers, the punters, the coverages are so good that, you just can't have the kind of returns, the kind of success you've had in years past?
Yeah, some of it's rules too, and they change to try to protect the guys. There are a lot of injuries that have taken place in the kick game, so they move that around. Now, Dave's a good one to talk to because he's on that committee where they talk about all that stuff. So, but I still think it's a viable part of the game, and I still think you make plays there when you have the ball, the opportunity to block, tackle. I mean, those fundamentals become very important on special teams. The return, your blocking in space has to be very good. That takes skill and work. So, and we need to get better at it.
Sorry, does your philosophy change with the way Patrick has evolved and has, effective as he's been? Do you think, okay, we want to be aggressive now, we can dial it back a little bit because we've got a guy that we really trust under center?
Maybe in certain cases. I mean, it'd be whatever situation, specifically if I say no, we do something, then I look like a fool up here. But, there's certain times when you're going to be a little bit more aggressive than others.
Andy, how did Clyde take his lower amount of playing time the other night? And what would you tell about that and his role going forward?
What I love about Clyde is Clyde wants to play, so I wouldn't expect anything less than that. How he handled it, though, was like a pro, but he wants to play. And I would think a lot if he didn't want to play. So it's the way that rotation got crazy thing, because we don't go in thinking that. But because of the way series worked, short series here, and he gets in for 3 plays and he's out, we don't have that many 3 and outs as an offense. And he happened to be on one of them. So the numbers got skewed. And it's kind of what happened with Pacheco, before that. So we're working through it. And it's not because of his ability. I mean, that's not.
And a different health and safety issue from concussions, but SoFi Stadium's turf has been in the crosshairs a lot. Where do you stand on artificial turf?
Yeah. Listen, I mean, I prefer natural grass. I've listened to all the studies, the density studies. I've seen all the different compounds that they put into the thing. I still like grass, natural grass. The way our league does it. I mean, I've seen some fields that I'd probably let's go artificial on, but for the most part, the guys that take care of these fields in the league do a nice job. And the grass fields, I'm saying. And the turf, I mean, they make it as good as they can possibly make it with the turf stuff, with the artificial turf. But I would prefer regular grass.
Coach, I was going to follow up on Adam's question about the running back situation. There was reports that you all had interest in Benjamin before the Texans cleaned them off of waivers. But looking at that, if that were to be the case, and anything common that particularly, if you were to bring another running back in, what's that say about Ronald Jones and his ability to be able to make the active list?
Yeah, I didn't hear anything about that, so I honestly don't know anything about it. I know Brett looks at everybody, but I never heard that. I mean, we're good with what we have right there.
So is there any? What does he need to do? I guess to see the field. I know we haven't seen him play.
Yeah, so Ronald's a capable player, obviously, and it's the number. It all started training camp. I mentioned that a couple of weeks ago. So when you kind of lose out on the spot, now you got to wait till somebody gets banged up or sick or something of that sort, and until you get in. I mean, you're not going to dress more than 3 of them normally, and but we feel very comfortable with him being in there too. So.
It sounds like MVS might be okay, but today you'll be rolling with Watson, Tony, and Moore. Just how confident are you in the depth of the receiver room?
Yeah, we're good. We're good. We've got a couple other guys. You've seen Kemp up in a few weeks. Not this past game, but 2 before that. So we know he can do it. Yeah, I mean, we're fine.
Andy, in relation to you guys taking over the number 1 spot in the AFC, certainly a long way to go, but just wanted to backtrack to the offseason, the moves you guys made, obviously getting rid of a pretty high caliber player. Can you recall having a conversation with the team as far as, hey, the end goal doesn't change when you make a move like that? I mean, or was it just a natural thing?
You know, Sam, I think the players know how we roll, and you don't really have to say that. And I'm glad he's having a good year. I mean, that's great for the National Football League. It's great for him and his family. So I'm happy for him, and that's the way we approach it. But we also have good players, and Brett does it as well as anybody. I'm finding people and bringing them in that he thinks will fit in the offense, defense, and special teams. So we have full trust in him as a coaching staff. But the guys that we've had here, man, we've loved having, and we want them to be able to make a living doing it and make as much money as they possibly can doing it. So if they go somewhere else, they go somewhere else, and then we'll get what we need and go roll.
We're sitting here in the middle of November. You guys have had a couple of dogfights with AFC West teams already this year. But if you win this game, you're 3 games clear of the Chargers. Are you surprised that that's how the division is shaken out so far this year?
Well, you're right at that time where, I mean, these games are so important. It's important for the Chargers, it's important for us, Denver, and the Raiders likewise. So that's the time of year you're in. And you got to make sure that you batten down the hatches, man, and get things, detail your work, and don't leave anything uncovered there. So.
Last one, Herbs.
Coach, on Juju Smith-Schuster, obviously there's a lot of controversy around that hit. Have you heard from the league clarifying whether it was a shoulder-to-shoulder hit or was it helmet-to-helmet hit?
No, I mean, I heard from the officials, but I haven't heard from the league yet. They'll give us our report here.
Would you hear from the officials?
It was shoulder. Yeah.
Or you talking about what?
During the game.
At the time?
Yeah, at the game.
Is it standard for the league to, and something, since that's become a big talking point around, is it standard for the league to reach out to you, or is that the kind of thing you have to reach out to them to get some kind of input?
And well, it goes both ways. Yeah, it goes both ways. But we have a form that we can fill out and ask questions. So.
Great, thanks, Coach.
All right, that's Andy Reid out at Arrowhead.
You're listening to 610 Sports Radio in Kansas City, KCSP Kansas City, WDAF HD2 Liberty, and Odyssey Station.
We're going to hear from Patrick Mahomes in just a minute or so. Of course, on the injury front, as we mentioned on the front end of that, I mean, it didn't sound all that optimistic on Juju, nor should they rush anything anyway. They said they're going to go through all the protocols that are required there. McCole Hardman not going to practice today. You heard about MVS as well. Andrew Wiley sounds like they're not worried about his injury status. Now he's going to have a little brace on the elbow, but he is going to practice, going to be good to go. I did want to talk, and I don't want to get too deep into it now because I know Mahomes is going to walk up to the podium any minute, but he was asked about Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and I want to have a discussion about that because he said they're going to continue to use a running back by committee. But let's go back out there and hear from Patrick.
This is obviously a big game in the division. Are you surprised at all that if you win this, you'll be 3 games up in the division after all the moves that were made in the West to make this a little more competitive with you guys?
Yeah, because you understand, we've played 2 of these teams now. We haven't played Denver yet, but you know that they're great football teams. They just, in football, man, anybody can beat anybody any day. And so it hasn't gone their way in some of these games, these close, hard-fought games. But we understand how good the Chargers are. We're not looking ahead to being 3 games up or whatever it is. We're looking at, well, what can we do to win today so that we can win on Sunday. And so we understand it's going to be a great challenge, and we're going to play our best football if we want to win.
Patrick, I asked Andy about this, but the moves you guys made in the offseason, obviously getting rid of a pretty high-caliber player, what was the mindset after that? I asked this because you guys took over the number 1 seed. What was the mindset as far as keep striving towards the same goal? Was it a conversation you felt like you had with the players and understood things?
I think guys just understand the culture that Coach Reid has built here over the years. It's bigger than one player. It's bigger than myself. And so what can we do to improve ourselves, to give ourselves the best chance to win? And we understand how great Tyreek is. I think people see that now in Miami even more than they saw it here, how special of a player that he is. But in this offense, it's about everybody. How can we make each other better? And we brought new guys in and kind of kept the older guys have gotten bigger roles. And we've done whatever we can to win football games, and that's helped us get this, being the number 1 seed now, but how can we continue that and get even better as the season goes on?
Were you pretty confident that both you guys would excel the way that you have once you weren't playing with each other?
Yeah, I mean, I saw Tyreek at practice every single day, so I knew that he was going to make plays no matter where he was at, and he got in a great offense with other great players, so it made it easy for him to go out there and show his talent. And then for us, I mean, I knew the guys that we had in our locker room, and like I said at the beginning of the year, man, Coach Reid's had success everywhere. So if I just do what he says, usually good things happen.
Does it surprise you that people seem to get healthy the week of when they come to when you're about to play them? And I believe Mike Williams along with Keenan Allen, they're expected to come back and play this week, kind of, and then who knows what happens next week.
I mean, it's a good thing to me. I mean, you're playing the best. I mean, every single week we want to play the best. We want to prepare ourselves to make a run in the playoffs, to try to get to the Super Bowl and win it. And if you play the best teams and with their best players and you win, it gives you that confidence that you can continue to get better and better. And whenever you play them in the playoffs, you're ready for it.
Patrick, because of injuries and such, you're going to start the week receiver-wise with Watson, Moore, and Tony. That's obviously a little bit different. What gives you the confidence in that group of guys?
Yeah, I mean, we put guys in positions to succeed. And so for me, it's about executing the offense, finding the open guy, and getting the ball in my hands and letting those guys make plays. And we've seen over the year that these guys can make plays in big moments. And so we'll give them those chances, as well as have some younger guys step up, and then hopefully we can get some guys back later in the week. And if not, we'll be ready to go with whoever's out there.
Specifically Watson, how critical has he been in sort of that underrated role for you guys this season in big spots?
Yeah, I mean, he's made a lot of big catches and big parts in games. He does a great job of blocking. It's crazy. Like in that last game, whenever we had some guys go out there back to back, he was kind of telling guys, "Hey, you go to this position and you take Juju's role, you take Marquez's role," and he knows every position on the football field, and he just wants to go out there and have success. So having guys like that, and I mean like that we have in the whole receiving room now, I think we'll be fine of just going out there and executing the offense.
Patrick, I saw yesterday that you quote tweeted Baldy's video of Jared McKinnon and his blocking ability. Just what do you appreciate most about what he's been able to do to keep you upright in certain moments this season?
Yeah, I mean, he has a great understanding of the protection plan. I mean, everything. That look that we got was kind of an unscouted look that we had gotten early in the season versus the Colts, where they used one of their linebackers to pick the tackle, and then the DN loops around. And earlier in the season, you might go with the linebacker because that's technically your guy, but he passed it off like he was an offensive lineman, man. And so for him, just knowing the protection plan, having that, like I said, that dog to step up and block a defensive end that's 6'5", 6'6", 280, and give me enough time to throw the ball downfield. I mean, that's what it takes in order to be a great team, is everybody doing their job. And it's special for a guy like that to take on that job and do such a great job of it.
Patrick, two folk questions. Do you prefer being the top dog to where everybody's coming after you, or did you like it to where you were kind of trying to catch what Buffalo is at the moment? I'll follow up.
I don't really care. I just want to win.
Okay, that's good. But that being the case, what has surprised you most? Each week in and week out. Obviously, you coming out of the game Sunday, you see the Minnesota-Buffalo game being in the dogfight, and then of course, obviously anything can happen in the NFL. But then Philadelphia losing Monday night to Washington, where people were. So I mean, what has surprised you most when you see week in and week out in the NFL?
It's not anything that surprises me. I mean, I understand it, man. I mean, everybody can beat everybody. I mean, there are great players on every single team in this league, and it's about who executes when it counts the most. And that's why we take situational football it's so important here. It's because it's something that changes games. I mean, everybody has great players. And we really focus on the situations that are going to win games, and we've done a great job this year of winning those situations. But let's keep it going, and whenever we get put in those situations again, let's maximize our opportunity and win more football games.
Patrick, when you look at surprised what Tony's been able to give you coming in so late?
I wasn't surprised about him making the plays, but just us being able to move him around as much as we have. I mean, it's a testament to him, man. He's really got in here. He's learned multiple positions, and we've moved him around now. It's not like he's in that one spot, and so we'll just continue to build on that. We don't want to overwhelm him. We don't want to put too much on his plate, but we're going to keep giving him more and more and more involved in this offense, because it'll make this offense better as a whole as the season goes on.
Back to the Tyreek trade for a second. Was there any thought at the time in your mind that maybe this was going to be a little more of a rebuilding year? Not a complete rebuild, obviously, but any more of a rebuilding year than anything else you've gone through since you've been here?
Not necessarily. Every time I step on that football field, I expect to win, and I think Coach Reed and Brett Veach are going to put guys around me that we're going to go out there and win football games, and I think they've done that. And even though we have young guys, we knew it was going to take time for them to keep getting more and more accustomed to how we do things. But we won some of those tight games early in the year, and I said those are some big wins for us, because those guys will learn even faster. And I think now we can continue to just build, and hopefully we can have the best team going into the playoffs whenever we're ready.
Patrick, just want to ask you about Justin Herbert, another young quarterback, and he was a little bit younger than you, but do you see any of yourself in the way that he plays, or maybe vice versa?
I mean, he's a special arm talent, man. And he throws some passes that I don't think anyone can throw in this league, and that includes myself. I mean, he has a cannon for an arm. You watch it. I watch on film every week because we play similar opponents, and there's some throws you just kind of shake your head because they're that special. And so I understand it'll be a great challenge for us as a team to go up against the Chargers and the talent that they have over there. And so how can we match that intensity? How can we match that talent and go out there and win a football game is what we have to focus on.
Patrick, I know the next man mentality, that when a guy goes down, you're obviously not going to quit, right? You keep playing and you got to put it in there, but it changes. The different skill sets change. When Juju comes out and somebody else has to play his role, do you go through a quick mental checklist? Okay, this guy does this better, he does this better, and I'm looking to make different reads based upon what his skill set is?
Not necessarily different read. I think the coaches do a great job of putting the right guys in the right positions. And so I think you saw right when Juju went out, we put Sky kind of in that inside role, let him catch the ball, get upfield. That was Juju's route, but Sky can do some of those similar type things, so let's put him in that position. If like when McCole came out, we put Justin Watson, we put the Chargers the last time in that same position that it was McCole's route. He was tired, put Justin Watson, another fast guy, he makes a play happen. And so I just rely on my coaches to put guys in the right position. And then I go through the reads, how I'm supposed to go through the reads. And, I mean, other than if Kelsey's manned up, I give him the ball. But I go through the reads, the way to go through the reads, and usually good things happen.
And then you said it was several years ago when you were on, I've asked you this before, but just get an update. Like when you were on LeBron's The Shop, you said, hey, in a couple of years, I'll really feel it. You were kind of talking about Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. You're 4.5 years in as a starter, 5.5 years in now. Do you feel like you know it all now, that it's reaction the way you were kind of aspiring it to be several years ago?
I think I'm definitely even a step further along with my process, but I still think I have a lot to learn. I mean, there's still certain protections that I get beat on because of the blitzes. There's certain coverages that get me because I don't recognize certain tells. So there's stuff that I can continue to get better at, but I mean, like the struggles like I went through last year, I think are something that you can just build on and learn from, and I think it's helped me be a little bit more patient. But there's still some times, like the end of the last game, I threw the pick where I get a little too aggressive. So I try to just kind of maintain that balance of being aggressive but making the right decision. Thanks, Patrick.
Thank you.
All right, that was Patrick Mahomes out at Arrowhead. We'll get into some of the specific things he had to say with Kling. So Josh Klingler is going to join us here in about 15 minutes. Chief Sideline reporter, obviously, is talking about, when guys are out, how much faith and trust does he have in each one of his wide receivers, mentioning how it ended up playing out. And even in week 2 where McCole Hardman was hurt, had the heel injury, that's when he first had it, and then Justin Watson actually got that touchdown in the Chargers game, and just mentioning how it's more about filling in particular routes and in different level of trust with the receivers. He did joke, he's like, with Kelsey, even if Kelsey's manned up, I'm still throwing him the football. He's the guy where even if he's not always open, he trusts Kelsey, he's going to throw him the football.
You think?
That's the guy where it's like, even if he's guarded pretty well, I'll still throw it to him sometimes because I trust him.
I think that was maybe the most impressive one of Tony's many impressive moments in that game, probably was the fact that, that was a trust me ball, right? That was, I'm just going to throw this up and you catch it, please. But we see him do that to everybody. He did it to MVS and what was a red zone interception against the Chargers, right? When he threw that ball up just kind of in the middle of nowhere, or maybe that was the Colts game, in the middle of he threw it up to him in the end zone. McCole didn't high point it, or MVS didn't high point it the way he wanted. The defender stole the ball away, and it ended up being a red zone pick. Mahomes seems like he's got a lot of faith in pretty much all of his weapons at this point. I mean, you heard him mention Sky Moore as well, right? So it's not like they're really trying to. They mentioned Sky and Clyde multiple times. By the way, if Nick whispered in my ear that made it sound weird. Nick talked
does that happen
in
a lot?
my ear.
Does he whisper in your ear a
during
lot?
the thing?
Really
He's 100%
close.
right during the Andy Reid thing. If I have to hear one more person mention the name Ronald Jones,
yeah.
I'm gonna jump out this window. I'm gonna go.
Well, we have
forward.
video now. So here, let me turn the cameras. We got video for that.
So there's this thing that's happened a lot with Kansas football. I am familiar with ineptitude from my sports teams, so I can relate to Chiefs fans who are watching the lack of production from the running back room and just saying, "Well, is there anybody else?" They did this forever with Kansas quarterbacks. The first guy wouldn't work, and the second guy, they're like, "How about the third guy? Maybe he's the answer." And I thought, if you've seen how bad the first two are.
What makes you think that guy?
Imagine for a moment how bad the next guy is going to be.
So
let's go to the fourth string guy who can't even make the active roster and see if he's the key.
He hasn't been active for a single game.
100% agree with both of you. And I know this is a different scale because it's the fourth string running back and he can't even get active. But that is what you just said is somewhat of my argument when we bring up, well, there's got to be a better right tackle on the team. It's kind of
at least he's only the second right tackle, not the fourth.
No, I agree with Alex in that
also,
regard
Prince
as
just
well.
played, so this is a bad time to talk about the right tackle. He just played and played well.
So again, like
point.
He didn't screw up is basically a different. Like what? Are we gonna have a score? All right, hold on. So we have a whiteboard in here that still has our weights. You want to erase that and start putting points?
Points
Points
That's a
on
point
the
for me.
damn
I
board.
win 1 point. I'm up 1 to 0 to 0.
We'll talk more about that with Kling, just in the running back situation,
points?
because
Prince
Andy
or the running back situation?
The running back situation. Let's do that, and I'm sure we'll get his thoughts on this downtown stadium because I think. We look at the Royals downtown stadium project, near downtown ballpark district they want to build, right? A $2 billion project. Timeline is still to be determined. The Royals, though, basically have said, we're done with Kauffman Stadium. That we know. And the rest is going to have to be figured out. But what does it mean for the Chiefs? That, I think, is interesting because it has absolutely an impact on what the Chiefs do. We know the options for the Chiefs are, A, they could renovate current Arrowhead. B, they could build new Arrowhead where Kauffman is. That requires the Royals to leave, which they now are. Or, of course, the third option is that they end up going across the state line to Kansas. I think we all know that's the least likely of the three, but it's definitely an option. This news yesterday that the Royals are going to eventually leave Kauffman Stadium sets up where I think the most likely scenario is they build a new Arrowhead where Kauffman is. That's what I think.
That, honestly... Is there any other thing that happens? Because they can do what Kansas City's talking about.
Yeah.
But with more space, they can build new Arrowhead where Kauffman is. They can demolish Arrowhead. And then they can have, because the owners of the Chiefs are not going to say, cool, awesome $2 billion project with shops and hotels that you have there. We're fine. We just want like a building that they play football in. No. That's not what's going to happen. And I know your initial reaction is the same. Like, do we really need 2 separate entertainment districts right near each other? And what I think is, I think the projects will end up looking kind of different.
Yes.
The Chiefs will just have more things for game day experience-related things in my mind. They might move the practice facility up that way, even though it's already on that ground. They're going to do things that make it feel like an all-encompassing project. But I have a hard time imagining that even if they do build a new Arrowhead on that area, that it's going to rival that of the Inglewood Project or Jerry World, where it is the Battery, because I don't think we're building that twice. The Royals are smart to get ahead of it. They'll have more amenities than they do now at New Arrowhead, but they have the same problems with concrete, an old stadium, and not old enough to be Lambeau or the other ones, but not new enough to not need renovation or major money or a teardown. Like, it is the exact same problem as Kauffman from a development standpoint.
We know Green Bay and the Chiefs actually play at Lambeau next year. And you may have caught it when it come back all the time for Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football, or just a big game on Fox like they had against the Cowboys at Lambeau. And they have that, they call it Title Town. That's their area. And to what you were saying, it has a giant, it's not even really a practice field. It's basically also used for, like, fans can go hang out. They have a giant replica field in this Titletown area that has a hotel, that has some residential. And that's perhaps something that the Chiefs could do on the Truman Sports Complex site.
It's a big site.
It's a little bit different. It's not completely, it has, look, the Royals ballpark district, they want to have residential, hotel, retail, office space in downtown or near downtown. But you could still do Titletown.
It's like a small version of it.
The Patriots have something similar as well there by Gillette Stadium, where it's a much smaller scale. But like you said, I think it's a great point. It's like have the photo. And for those of you watching on the stream, there's basically this field that's right next to the stadium, and you can tell there's some apartments or something right by it. Stuff like that maybe is a possibility still, even out at Arrowhead.
I think that's probably what's most likely, because the only other thing that seems even plausible to me is that they move to Kansas. And that would imply that the state of Missouri was going to give money to the Royals or help the Royals or whatever. The Royals get their whole big stadium project. And then Missouri is going to be willing to lose their only remaining NFL football team. I think we would be having a very different conversation, Gold, if the Rams were still in St. Louis, and it wouldn't feel as bad for them to have somebody jump over the state line. Kansas City wouldn't feel, but they're not going to let them. Missouri has an NFL team, and they're not going to let it go.
That's not going to lose the second team.
Yeah, whatever the gambling stuff is that they put in, posturing at best, in my opinion, because that gambling fund from the sports wagering that exists in Kansas to specifically, I think, steal the Chiefs. Like, it's not going to work because Missouri is not going to let them go.
Wow. Yeah, it's not going to work also because as we talked about this, it's not even anywhere near the type of money that would actually be
enough
realistic.
to justify.
I think it's 80% of all sports wagering revenues in Kansas, and you're talking about, at best case scenario, not definitely in year one, you're talking about $5 million going into that fund per year. It could take 10 years just to get to $50 million. We're talking about billions of dollars.
Could you even
projects,
buy an entire stadium, like an entire stadium project's worth of bathrooms for $5 million? Would that even just get you bathrooms? I don't think so.
Nick's our expert on bathroom costs these days. I think he would probably tell you that, man, the price of toilets have gone up.
What's the
really
guy switch to the video
really
stream?
Difficult.
Literally, when it was like, could not have been closer to your face. Then.
Why are you doing that?
Nick's adjusting his camera, and it is right in his face.
Pay attention.
I'll go back. No one has to see. They can just hear you.
Damn it, dude.
I was actually trying to pay attention and do a nice thing and put you on camera in a moment in which you are going to be speaking.
But it was a stupid thing to come to me on because I'm obviously not the expert on bathrooms. At no point have I purported to be an expert on bathrooms.
You were talking about the trough bathrooms earlier. I kind of thought maybe, you wanted to be a part of multiple bathroom conversations. My apologies. That was clearly wrong.
I told you I was saving my bathroom talks for the random question of the day.
The only thing they need to do between the Chiefs, the airport, and the Royals this time is separate them by a little. They're doing it already. Airport now. Royals will be, let's call it 5 years. Feels like a reasonable time estimate based on all the information they put out yesterday. So, airport this year, next year, but
I got
soon.
you. I got you.
The Royals 5 years from now. Not quite as much separate as you want. You got to get the Chiefs, in my opinion, to 5 years past that. I know that sounds like a lot, but you have got to push because if by some chance they make a mistake on either of these stadiums and it's a Texas Rangers situation, and they're hitting you back up 20 years from now for a different, new, even better stadium, you better have these things separated a little bit. Because teams do that. You got to, to me, the whole thing about this is, and I understand it's not going to last forever, but I would like that if they're going to spend this money on the Royal Stadium, they're going to spend this money on a new Arrowhead, I would like them to build it the way they did this time and get me 50 years. I'm not trying to do this again in 15. The Titans have had to redo theirs too soon. The Rangers have had to redo theirs too soon. Even Tampa Bay Stadium, which isn't old enough to be as big of a dump as it is. I'm not trying to have this conversation 20 years from now. Can we build the kind of area and entertainment district? I'm not saying it might never need a renovation, but can we build the kind of arena or stadium that can hold up over the course of time? That's really what I'm looking for.
And look, I have no doubt to say, look, we've gone through the fair questions, concerns that everybody has had about...
Like somebody saying the tax percent, the 1% tax rate.
And we'll get back into that, I promise, in the 1 o'clock hour today, just the parking concerns, the ticket pricing concerns, the tax concerns, all that stuff. The one thing I don't doubt, whatever the finished product is, I do think they're going to put together an incredible stadium and an incredible project with the ballpark district. Tell me one new stadium that's been built that you think, man, that place just flat out sucks.
The inside of the Rangers Stadium is very nice. The outside of their stadium looks like a Menards.
Yeah, well, I know they're not building a roof Kauffman Stadium. It's not going to look like a damn warehouse. I'm good. I know it's not going
to. It looks like a Menards, man.
We're talking about
the outside of that stadium looks like garbage.
The inside's incredible, I've been told, though.
We're talking about visuals, though. So, in terms of, has there ever been a stadium built where people just hated the experience of going to the
I'm
stadium?
talking about stadiums that have been built in the last 10 or 15 years where you're like, the inside people are like, why do they spend all this money? The stadium sucks. Not the on-field product stinks.
Lately, that has not occurred as much.
The Miami Marlins have a beautiful stadium. The team sucks. I'm not talking about the team still sucking. I'm talking about...
No, we've been in that stadium,
and it's a very nice stadium.
Quite nice.
The team sucks still. My point being is, I have no doubt that whatever the finished product would be, I'm sure the stadium's going to be pretty badass. Now, it's not going to be Kauffman. It's not.
It's tough.
I hope they bring some elements.
Some of the downtown ones have such good sight lines. San Francisco's got the bay,
Look, we don't have a
bridge in Pittsburgh.
We don't have that, unfortunately.
The mountains in Colorado.
Yeah, we don't have the mountains. We don't have a Golden Gate Bridge, and there's some things we just don't. There's some
we need
things.
to put some stuff behind it. It needs to look cool behind, not just here's a slightly muddy river. That's all. Just be nice if sightlines would be cool. That's all. I think the stadium itself.
There's some limitations with that because of the sun and all kinds of stuff like that. Can't really just.
We're
going
to get back to Nick's idea later in the show about that.
Just move the sun. We'll talk more about the stadium.
But can you move the stadium? Nick?
Stadium
But can you move the
projects
stadium?
and what Andy Reid had to say about the running back by committee. Sounds like they're going to keep that going with Josh Klingler, our chief sideline reporter, next.
from heartburn and indigestion. You know, that uncomfortable feeling after you eat too much.
Back here on Cody and Gold, Alex Gold, Cody Tapp, Nick Schwert with you. We'll get to the random question of the day here in about 12 minutes or so. But it is that time to talk it with our Chiefs Silent Reporter for the Chiefs Radio Network, host of Fesco in the Morning, Josh Klingler. You hear him from 6 to 10 here on 610. Eventually, we'll get you in studio with the video, just because. We have a graphic and everything set up for you now, but we'll eventually get you, I think, in studio. Before we get to on the field stuff, your reaction with the stadium news, because I think it has a huge impact on what the Chiefs are going to do as well.
Yeah, I mean, not a surprise. I'd like to know exactly where it's going to be, but as far as the downtown portion of it, I am curious. All told, that's a lot of money total between that and what the Chiefs are probably going to want to do, and so it's going to be interesting. I'm glad I don't have to do the math for everybody, because that's a lot of projects in a short amount of time that are probably going to have to be done to kind of appease both teams. So we'll see. But moving downtown's cool. I'm all in favor of downtown baseball. I think downtown baseball is going to be a lot of fun.
Are the Chiefs just like biding their time? I feel like they're going to announce their desire to have a new stadium on the Arrowhead site just as soon as the Royals are like, we'll be in our new downtown stadium on whatever of 2027, right? The second I feel like they come down with the announcement and whatever tax thing is figured out, then the Chiefs will start talking, is my guess.
But that's going to be, at best back to back, right?
Why not bundle it? Why not bundle it like they did for the renovation? Put them both on the ballot at the same time. That way, if the Chiefs are rolling with Mahomes, it also helps the issue of, for those that may say, well, the baseball team's not winning, I'm not voting for it.
What about the football team? They win plenty.
Yeah, true. That's not a bad play to go ahead and do that. I don't know if the timing would work, and also, I don't know what each is going to ask for too. I mean, we don't know. We don't know what each is going to ask for. We know that the Royals have said that it will not cost Jackson County taxpayers any more than they're currently paying now. if you lump that together, I can't imagine that there's not going to be some kind of bump, right? So, yeah, I suppose it depends what they're asking if they're on the same page. But, I mean, I know that both of them are exploring, what they're going to do with stadiums. The Chiefs are underway with obviously looking at, all kinds of scenarios in terms of, revamping or replacing or building new or what have you. So their full comprehensive plan is underway. When you're asking everybody for money, though, well, how do you go about that plan? No one wants to do that ask. That's a lot for a city. I mean, look at like sports cities. I don't know. I'd have to look, and I haven't really delved into it, but I'm just thinking there's probably not a lot of places that have done like
$5 billion
ask
projects
or a double stadium at the same time. Maybe Pittsburgh comes to mind when they got out of their one stadium and went to two, but that's a lot in a short amount of time for a market, for sure.
I think what's crazy about it, Kling, is it's not like in retrospect, they obviously would have done it a little bit different. But this isn't like today's problem. This is what happened in the late 60s, early 70s when they built the airport and two stadiums at the same time. So now it's like, hey, here's your big fancy airport, now stadiums again. It's like they just happen to be coming up because you decided to put two stadiums on the same site together. And their lease expires at the same time. Like, in retrospect, it feels like they might not have done that.
Yeah, you'd love to stagger it. I think if you're any city, you'd love to stagger that ask or that request that's coming in rather than one bill due at the same time. Might be a challenge. We'll see. We'll see how much. I mean, each team I think is going to be putting in a bunch of money. So, I am curious though. Eventually, where the Chiefs one goes because. I've been to L.A. and I've been to Vegas now, and, Clark Hunt has been as well. You can't help but walk in those new stadiums in the AFC West and go, oh, my goodness. And so whatever they have in store, I got to imagine there's a little stadium envy going on in the AFC West right now.
We're talking to Josh Klingler, Chiefs sideline reporter for the Chiefs Radio Network. On the field, though, with the Chiefs, we got a little bit of update on the injury front. They got a couple wide receivers, 3 of them not practicing today. McCole Hardman, MVS, and then Juju, of course, also in concussion protocol. What are you kind of hearing maybe on the McCole front? It's weird. They're calling it an abdominal illness, not injury. Illness was the wording he used.
That's I don't know what the clarification is of that either because I don't know what that means. I
He
don't
was
know.
like a pancreas or something and they didn't tell us?
I don't know that he's got it's something maybe even non-football related. Who knows, right? So it's strange to think because maybe the Chargers are getting back a couple of wide receivers this week. And the Chiefs, with an illness, you don't know. Is this just a not feeling well and you're back at the end of the week kind of thing, or does it drag out? Or we know, and I'm using this facetiously. We know COVID doesn't exist in the NFL anymore. So, you never seem to have to sit out for a long period of time if you're quote unquote ill anymore. So if it's a short day thing, not a problem. Juju, you knew that was probably going to be one that wasn't going to be this week. McCole, I think you're probably hopeful it was going to be, but who knows where that one's progressing to. And then hopefully MVS can flip it around and be back, and you're still dealing with a little bit of shorthanded, but hey, more who doesn't want to see more Kadarius Toney? At this point in time, we've already sped up that clock. Let's go ahead and expand his route tree a little bit.
Andy and Pat both got asked questions about it, which makes sense because if the Chiefs win this game, the division is definitively over. I had declared it dead. The week 3 mark after they had beaten the Chargers, which I think by most people's account was a bit premature, but not so fast, Kling. It looks like right now the division is completely done. Signed, sealed, delivered this Sunday, the week before Thanksgiving if they beat the Chargers.
Yeah, have to win first, obviously, and the Chargers will be a remarkable story if they knock off the Chiefs. I mean, their ability to stay in games, their ability to overcome injuries. I think I talked to my sideline counterpart in L.A., Shannon Farron, who said they had 17 players that have missed time, 12 of them starters, and so they've been through just about everything, and to still be in the mix. But you're right, with a win on Sunday, this division you won't have an X by the Chiefs in the standings officially, but for all intents and purposes, you have slammed the door on the division. The Chiefs, that would give the Chargers their 5th loss, and as well as 0-2 against the Chiefs. So, yeah, you pretty much locked up the division with the win on Sunday. A victory for the Chargers keeps them in the mix and doesn't make it a done deal. I mean, I'd rather finish the division off first and then go to bigger and better. But I don't want to see the Chargers still linger around in this thing. So finish it off on Sunday would be great.
Feels like the Chiefs are in a spot, though, unlike where we thought this division was going to be. Of course, it's really what the AFC East is this year. But why can't the Chiefs actually go on this ridiculous run anywhere close to what Brady did with the AFC East, where that was a terrible division? I would have thought that this year would have been the challenge, of course, for Kansas City. But why can't they rattle off 10, 11, or 12 straight based off of the problems long-term that the Broncos, for example, or the Raiders are going to have?
Yeah, I mean, they absolutely can. And then you can even just say coach quarterback. I mean, who's going to be close to eclipsing you in the coach quarterback dynamic, which I think is always a big one. I mean, no one's going to close the gap for that for a long time. So continue to put pieces around Patrick Mahomes, and yeah, you have every opportunity to continue to kind of rule this division.
I guess that's like, to me, then they've all made a mistake. They all put all their chips in the middle, and they had the worst hand, Kling. Like they thought they had it together. Maybe the Chargers is simply just injury related. But another year off of their books is another year that their defense gets older, and it's already not good. Their offensive skill position players get older, and they're already hurt a lot. And, Brandon Staley either keeps or doesn't keep his job, and they have to reset with a new coach and a new offensive system and teach Justin Herbert other things. And while he's a great quarterback, we know that can take a little bit of time to readjust to, depending on the level of quarterback you are. Like if it's Tom Brady in year 12, you don't worry about it. Yeah. If it's Tom Brady in year 12, you don't worry about him changing systems. But if it's Justin Herbert as third coach in 5 years, you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So no, everybody's playing from behind. The Russell Wilson thing not working out, at least for now, looks terrible. Those two coaches at the bottom of the division are in no great shape right now. Whatever the Raiders do, you got to think they're going to make either personnel moves or the coaching move, or maybe both at the end. They may make the quarterback move at the end of the year too. So, this is the Chiefs division until further notice. The Chargers are the only ones that are even close, and I think there's still plenty of people that have questions about the head coach. So,
how do you see the backfield going the rest of the way here for the Chiefs? Because we saw Clyde only got 6 snaps. He had 2 passes thrown to him. Andy kind of downplayed it, like, we just happened to have some 3 and outs in the rotation. That's why he didn't get on the field. I don't know if I'm buying that fully. However, Cody and I disagree on this. I don't think we should assume Clyde is just not going to have a role the rest of the season.
I don't either. I can't write it off because they could just flip it. And I compared Pacheco to a basketball lineup the last time when Pacheco wasn't getting, we all said, what's going on with Pacheco? I said, well, I felt like Andy Reid was that coach that had that 8th guy that he really wanted to get some playing time to, and he looked down the bench and realized, oh crap, I didn't get him in the game. And then the next game, you're moving him to the 6th spot on the bench so you make sure you can try to get him more PT. I felt like they did that with Pacheco the last time. It sounds like similar vibes this time. Like there were more things for Pacheco in that matchup. Plus he ran hard, and I still think that the hot hand is probably going to get the football. I don't think that they've written him off at all. I wouldn't be shocked if there's a game soon. Maybe it's Sunday. Who knows? They're a mess along the defensive line in LA right now. So you'd like to think the Chiefs are going to try to run the football a lot at that line. But maybe it's a game where it flip-flops, where you have Clyde Edwards-Helaire with 12 carries and Pacheco's got 7 or something. I think there'll be one of those games at least still to come. But I think Pacheco has asserted himself as a kind of different kind of runner, runs hard. Obviously, maybe if he completes that drive, guys, last week, I'm like, I could contend if he completes that drive and doesn't fumble, CH might be in the next series. He does fumble. They want to get him the football back. They put him back in, So I don't know exactly how their rotation is going to be. I can't imagine any of us can kind of predict, because it seems like they really are trying to use everybody when and all possible.
Josh Klingler, silent reporter for the Chiefs Radio Network. You'll hear him out in L.A. on Sunday night. Now it's Sunday Night Football, which means, are you going to be doing the show Monday then from, well, I guess, no, you'll be taking the charter back. I was going to wonder if you were going to be doing a show.
I saw the itinerary, and it's got a 3 a.m. arrival.
So you're going to be sleeping in a cot at the Odyssey building.
Well, not even sleeping. I think you'd probably just
on the plane, maybe.
If time's out right, just going, straight.
Just call in
through.
sick. Just call in sick. It's
all-nighter.
Call in sick, Kling. It's fine. No one will care.
No, we need his views
I could
from the
sleep on the
side. We
plane.
need the views from the sideline Monday morning on Festival in the Morning. Thanks, Kling.
You bet.
There you go. Always good to have Kling give us some insight there. And yeah, that backfield situation is truly, I think, week to week. Going to keep an eye on that. Let's get to the random question today.
Random question.
For you, Gold. For you, Nick. And over in the J Southland Tow Service text line, 913-586-7610. Of course, the random question today brought to you by the window source of Kansas City. Nick asked for it earlier, and so we will oblige. So you can hit us up on the text line, 913-586-7610, or on the live stream comments. What is your must-have thing for the new stadium? I'll start. I think that it should be under 28,000 seats. Stop building stadiums with more and more seating. We're going the opposite direction. Create a cool atmosphere. Make it more likely that the game is sold out under a regular basis. And for those games that it's really popular and more people want to show up, it's just going to be a hot ticket. But I like the idea of a smaller stadium. And we've seen other teams kind of move in that direction versus, hey, these used to be 50,000. Now let's make them 60. No, let's take this back in a little bit. No need for a 37,000 seat downtown stadium. Give me like 28, 29.
Yes, I agree with you. Again, we're nitpicking on the number. I think you probably still want to be at least at 30, but I'm fully on board with what you're saying, and I think you're right on. There's no need for 37,000. You look at average attendance across baseball, and just so many more so many more options that people consume games with. I don't think you need a 37,000 seat stadium, but I also think 28 to me is a little too small. I think it's like, can you find something in that 30 to 32 range?
Do you know how many teams averaged 30,000 this year? I mean, it was maybe 6 teams in the league.
Let's
Dodgers,
make it even.
Yankees,
No, let's make
Cardinals.
it super. Let's make it like 15,000. Super
Okay, no,
exclusive.
come on, I don't want to do that.
No, come on. It's
Like
really
a red
tough.
velvet rope.
Yeah, it'd be really tough to get in.
Make it a difficult ticket, huh?
Yeah, I think you guys need to start
Then it
thinking
would be
bigger.
problem. Then the concern people have about ticket pricing actually would be a legitimate problem. If
But the average attendance was 19,000 this year.
I understand. Yeah.
19,000 people in a 30,000 seat stadium most of the days. That's going to feel like the game means more.
I like some of the suggestions that we had earlier in the show. Barbecue fountains.
Okay. No shoes? Didn't someone want an area for no shoes?
A no shoes segment. The person did text it in and clarified. They said they have gout, so sometimes they need to let the puppies breathe. They thought, Cody, you'd probably be able to relate to that. Multiple sizes of toilets, right? Toilets for short people, toilets for really tall people, than your average toilet. I think there should be like a nostalgic section. There should be an 80s section where it's just like trough toilets and, none of the fancy food options, none of the nacho helmets, just old school food items.
So nacho helmet, I think, is pretty old school baseball concession.
Casey
item.
Kurt does say to bring outfield walls in so players
Well,
can
that's
hit more
not a
home
terrible
runs.
idea.
Field dimensions is something we should absolutely consider
And
as part
you
of this
guys,
discussion.
we know fountains have to be out there, and I feel pretty confident they will
I'd like if
incorporate
more homers
fountains.
went into them.
You guys know how I feel about the Lazy Susan idea. Obviously, I'm not going
Why do you think
to let go of
Susan's
that.
so lazy? Why do you keep mentioning that with her? It's really,
Listen.
there's people that are listening, their wife is named Susan.
I think it'd be so perfect to have a stadium that can rotate based off the angle of the sun so that the sun's never in your eyes.
And so sometimes it can look downtown and other times it can look elsewhere.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah, fountains, Crown Vision.
Roller coaster.
Wait, roller coaster? That's new. Where?
Why?
Don't need a
Why?
roller coaster.
The Milwaukee Brewers have a slide in there.
So
Yeah,
you're
but
saying
not-
ours should be better with a roller coaster?
The
Nick?
fans don't go down the slide, though, Nick. Just the mascot.
Someone says they'd like us three permanently in the catch-up.
We have to show up every game.
God, could you imagine?
81 nights a year.
Show
We're just strapping
Oh,
those
man.
costumes
We'd be
on.
damn good at it by the end of the year, though.
Oh, my God, yeah.
We'd be ready to roll. We'd have every little trick.
Every little nuance. We'd all cheat way more. Like, if it was just the three of us, I'd trip both of you sometimes. I would set things up to set.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be like, in the president's race where, like, Teddy jumps out of the crowd to tackle people. That would be going down. It'd be chaos. It'd be chaos to try to get this thing even.
Yeah, I think that sounds like a fantastic idea.
Now that I'm talking about it, it sounds like fun.
Definitely,
Except for 81
as-
times feels like a lot.
As Major League Baseball gets more willing to accept it, and also with sports betting being legalized, I think you got to have a little lounge that involves sports betting, a sports book lounge somehow. Right outside the stadium, or
What
in it.
if we could?
By then it'll be legal. and
What if
everything
we
anyway.
could
I
get a
think so.
partnership with our new? I mean, it doesn't exist yet, obviously, but once we start Can of Bets,
Uh-huh.
what if we could get a partnership with the Royals to put a Can of Bets in the stadium?
Sure, why not?
Weed betting. Boom.
Well, we've talked about that in the stadium.
You actually require to be high to bet at Cannabets.
Wait, doesn't gambling have to be legal in Missouri for that to happen?
Yeah, but within
It'll be legal by the time
in
this stadium's
7
built.
years, it's going to be legal.
You never know, man. A lot can change.
I'm willing to bet you
Someone said
that it will be.
Padded
Well,
toilet
you just
seats like
can't bet
those-
me at the new Royals
We're in
Stadium.
Kansas, though. We're in Kansas, though. I can
Okay.
bet you right here.
Someone said padded toilet seats like in your grandma's house.
Padded seats.
Way too much air in them.
Yeah. Can we invent new?
I like that we all knew exactly what that guy was
Yes.
talking.
Could we invent new toilet? Because like the worst place to ever have to go and sit down at a bathroom is at a stadium. Everyone's just in a for
You
guys.
want a sound controlled?
No, not sound thing. I'm done with the splatter on the toilet seats. What can we do about that?
Aim better, man.
That's
No.
tough.
We've been working on that for decades,
Well,
Gold.
that's still the biggest solution to this.
Required sitting? If you go into the stall.
Mandatory sitting when you use the restroom from now on.
Mandatory sitting. Sorry. This is where we are now.
Man.
You've had too many beers. You're required to sit down, sir.
Someone wants the stadium seats to be see-through. I don't know why.
How would that help? Because there's still going to be someone sitting in those seats.
Why do you seriously? What's the lot? Why do you want the seats to be see-through?
You know what? Hey, no bad ideas.
So like when
No bad
when the
ideas.
stadium's empty, it just looks. I'm confused.
Like I'm in a snow globe or what? I don't know what we're going for here.
Yeah.
But Nick's right. No bad
Oh,
ideas.
Dude, speaking of snow globe, people want domes.
Yeah.
Snow globe?
Yeah, how about a clear dome? Why has nobody tried that? Big glass dome.
I mean, doesn't the Rams Chargers Stadium kind of have a little bit of that effect? A little
No,
bit?
but I'm talking about full snow
Like
globe.
almost like Bubble Boy, like a snow globe.
I was going to think
They've
about
got
another great
snow-blowing
comedy,
machines from the top.
Biodome. Yeah.
Someone says a winning baseball team to add the new stadium. Well, touche.
I mean,
can they do that too?
You might be more likely to get the Lazy Susan thing right now. Although
Wow.
Wow, dude, are you kidding me?
I
On
said
today?
right now they haven't won in 4
Did we
years.
have a lazy Susan 7 years ago? You know what? Something
we
else
did World
happened 7 years ago.
How about this,
I know
guys?
it's on
From
the
the
table
785. From the 785, best way to keep bathrooms clean: no bathrooms. Hold it all game. Wait till you get home.
No, because then it becomes like this is going to be a Northlanders reference only. If you do that, then it becomes the inside of the Penguin at Penguin Park. Just reeks of urine.
How is that?
I said it was going to be a reference only for people who grew up in the Northland. I warned you. There's a park called Penguin Park. There's a bunch of like essentially, not paper mache, but they're just like I can't think of the word.
Text line says, by the way, the bubble idea, Nick, so you're trying to turn to a greenhouse. You know how hot the stadium would be if you just had like this clear, warm
Yeah, but
bubble.
we could grow plants in there too.
Save the environment.
Yeah.
The same
Ever
time.
heard of it?
The one thing, we actually haven't brought up, though, and this is where the capacity and the seating might matter and impact. We know when the Royals renovated Kauffman Stadium, the All-Star game came here.
Yeah.
You think new stadium, you also expect All-Star game eventually coming back.
Yeah.
But there are still like requirements for capacity usually. That'll be interesting to see. But that's
Baseball should change
But
that
that's
stuff. Get rid
that's
of those
something that
rules.
you could also expect, though. If they're going to build a new stadium, they're getting an All-Star game within 5 years of it being opened or so.
I understand, but like baseball shouldn't hold on to those rules knowing where their sport is going. Just make it entertaining for as many people that will come to your game. Like that's really how this needs to go. There are so many people that are asking to bring back the urine troughs. How is
so
this?
bad.
How is it a thing that people want those back?
Because
was
not
awful.
not everybody's as uppity as you guys. I know they don't have.
Uppity?
I know they
by
don't-
just having a
Because I
urinal.
like a very small
yeah.
amount of privacy.
Yeah.
I didn't even ask for a partition. I just have to not be in the same cavernous
Hey,
hole.
I'm sorry. I know they don't have troughs up in the suites where you guys like to sit, but some of us have some nostalgic memories of.
Oh, you enjoy the splatter of someone else's pee? Is that what you enjoy?
I didn't mind it.
Is that what you enjoy?
I didn't
Is that
mind
what you
it.
enjoy?
There's something communal about all of us just kind of kicking into the same bucket.
I don't like it.
It's like, hey, you're you know what? You may be from a different walk of life to the left, same to you on the right, but today we're all human.
Someone says a fighting section. Helmets provided.
Okay.
I don't know why you need helmets. If you're fighting, is that
Because they're fighting.
like boxing helmets or like a baseball helmet, but you fight in them instead? Someone says so much faster with those though, because even if it doesn't feel like there's room, you can just squeeze right in there. Can't you?
I'm like, hey, get on in here.
Oh, it's so gross. I don't want to go back to that. I really, really,
Such
really
a
don't.
prude.
Why? Again, I don't think that this is the thing.
Coming up next, we'll get to the 1 o'clock hour. That, of course, was the random question of the day. There's one area where the Chiefs could improve, and it would make a drastic difference. We'll tell you just where they actually rank in one particular category. That's surprised a lot of us. 1 o'clock hour here on a Wednesday. It's Cody and Gold. Thanks again to Kling for joining us. Alex Gold, Cody Tapp, Nick Schwartz with you. Of course, 1 hour from now, we'll hand things off to The Drive. Throughout the show today, talking about the Royal Stadium project, right? The baseball district, their intention to move away from Kauffman Stadium to a site in KC-Mo, in downtown or near downtown, in the near future, all the timetable and all that still to be figured out. We'll get back into the stadium conversation, some of the concerns that people have, the specific ones, including parking, the taxes, and things like that, and what that we already talked about, what that means maybe for the Chiefs and the future of Arrowhead. But let's just talk some Chiefs football for a little bit here. And this defense, I think all three of us would talk about the defense and say, you know what, it feels like, they're doing a pretty good job this year. It feels like they're better than they were a year ago. But there is one specific area that was a problem 2 years ago that they said was a huge focus 2 years ago. Fast forward now, different personnel and all that, and it's actually worse. They're bottom three, is that right? In the NFL in touchdown red zone percentage.
They're allowing. I forgot.
Oh,
How long has it been? Like a week?
Yeah, we're gonna need we're gonna have to make a graphic for the live stream of every time you do that.
Let's put a big X through his face
What,
whenever.
an X through my face?
Yeah, like a wrong answer type thing.
Okay. They're allowing a touchdown in the red zone 70% of the time. For reference, they are the second best in the NFL at scoring a touchdown in the red zone, Gold, and they score 74% of the time. So they are as bad at giving up touchdowns as they are good at scoring them, which is not great when you're the second best in the NFL. I think that this is probably, like from the defensive perspective, as much as I am optimistic about them, and I remain that way, there are several troubling signs of things that I'm not confident can be fixed this season. One is this. Am I to just assume they will get better in red zone touchdown defense, even though they've been bad most of this year? They were below average, but barely, a little below average last year in that category. Bad the year before, which is why it was a focus for them a couple of years ago. I think some of it could have equated to like old, slow defense before, an inability to stop the run. And now it's inability to stop the run coupled with young defense who doesn't know where to be all the time. So maybe there's some reason to say optimistic because they're young and will figure it out. But 70%, the company they're keeping in there is why their points per game defense has not come to a level that we would find acceptable for a championship caliber team yet.
Yeah, I think the same conversation when we mentioned the turnover issues or lack of getting turnovers. Look, the turnover differential, a lot of that has been the special teams mistakes as much as anything, but also they're not turning teams over. And if you're not doing that, well, you're not getting that crucial red zone turnover, right? You had it in week 2, Jalen Watson gets the pick 6, wins the game for you. But if suddenly they were able to get some more turnovers, that likely would help this red zone percentage in its own right. Not to mention, I want to see if it balances out a little bit. Look, they're not going to be a top 15 defense in the red zone. That's just not going to happen. They're already where they're at. However, can they still improve on that 72%, 70% based off of the schedule? When you had one of the toughest schedules to start the season, you played almost every game except for the Jags against a team with a winning record a year ago. We know they have the second or third easiest schedule the rest of the way. I would like to think that will help the number improve a little bit. But yeah, they're not going to be suddenly a top 15 defense in that particular category. But I don't think they'll finish bottom 3 either.
I mean, there's...
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
I turned it off to talk to you.
Twice in 5 minutes. That's a new record.
That's
As
a
he was
first.
bragging, like, it's been a week.
Five minutes isn't
That
even...
is a first.
5 minutes that's probably doing too much justice. It will get better conversations have to die pretty quick, Gold. We are halfway through the season. Like, I don't think they're going to finish third worst is like, I mean, probably not. But as it sits right now, it's not like there's not as much time to improve that number going forward.
You don't think that their opponents were much tougher in the first 8 weeks?
No, I think so. But,
that's one area where you can improve. Also,
but they got to improve by 10% just to get to the top 20. Or just to get to the top 20 in red zone scoring defense.
That's why. What did I say, though? I said they're not going to get to the top 15. That's not happening. I go, they're not going to finish bottom 3. That's all I said. I think it's that crazy to think that they can improve from being a bottom 3 red zone defense.
I think maybe what this ends up being is a conversation a little similar to what we did last year, which was I don't need them to finish top 12 at the end of the year. What I need them to be for the rest of the year is top 15. The stat you just gave is what I need them to be from week 11 till the end of the season, not beginning of the season to week 18. I don't care about that. I care about week 11 till the end. That's where you're going to have to show massive improvement. But clearly, some of the issues that cause those things are not going to get solved easily.
Look, that bottom three is not good enough. But you said it's the company you don't want to be around. I will say, not that I want to be in the bottom three, but like you said, the company they don't want to be around. 31's Minnesota. They're 8-1. The Chiefs are 30. They're 7-2. The Dolphins are 29th. They're leading the AFC West or the AFC East. So not that any of those teams want to be in the spot, but like the idea that like they're the only playoff team or good team that's in the bottom. Miami and Minnesota are two of the top 4 or 5 teams in football.
But Kansas City and Miami are the 19th and 27th ranked defense in points per game. They could be significantly better than that if they could make a difference in their red zone scoring defense. Honestly, kudos to Minnesota, who is somehow 14th despite that atrocious percentage of red zone, which means they're not letting teams anywhere near it. Because I did the math. Again, if they would have just been league average is around 56, 57%, of touchdown percentage, they would be like the 9th scoring defense in the NFL right now.
I honestly don't have the answer. Do we know like what the difference in how many trips the Chiefs have given? Like how many red zone trips have opponents actually had? We have a percentage, but like they're 30th, 70% of the time opponents are scoring. I just would love to know how does that compare to the team that's 20th, that's at 58%? How many more or less? I don't know the answer. It may be the same red zone trips the Chiefs have given up.
I don't have it offhand, but I would say this. It's not going to make you feel good either way. Because,
are you sure? I don't know.
Well, I mean, if they're, I guess maybe you'd feel better if they were allowing less, but allowing 70%.
I'll tell you what it is.
Oh, you found it? Okay.
Yeah, it's 30 red zone attempts, 20 red zone touchdowns.
Okay.
Given up.
Now, do we know? Okay, so let's say the team that's 20th. So
let's not ask any more questions.
I'm just curious.
We don't have any more answers.
Can you look up Cleveland? I'm honestly just curious. Like, it may end up being that the Chiefs actually have had way more red zone trips. I don't know. I'm just curious if there's any correlation at all.
If you looked up one, you can certainly look up another team, right, Nick?
Yeah, but where does it
no pressure at all.
Where does it end? You know what I mean?
Cleveland. We'll call it right there. Just look up that one, and then Nick, and then he'll let it go.
Okay, Cleveland has given up 34 red zone
only
attempts.
4 more. Okay,
and
that's what I was
given
trying to figure
up
out.
20 touchdowns.
Okay, that's what I was trying to figure out if there was a huge gap or not.
They're giving them the same number of touchdowns, but they've let the team in the red zone four more times.
There you go. That's why their percentage is 58 instead of 70. That's kind of how the math works.
I love it when math works out like that.
Do you?
Yeah.
Makes it easier, doesn't it? When you're looking at areas of improvement, though, because that's really what we're asking for, a young defense to show areas of improvement. Doesn't this feel like the one that's one of the bigger stretches? Like, I know that you're saying, well, I don't know, but like I can see them improving against the pass or getting better against the run or, being more, we've talked about their low number of general turnover ability, which we can talk about, but those things seem plausible to me in the improvement
go hand in
department.
hand if they get better pass defense?
Well, I mean, that's
help?
just related to the red zone. They'd have to get better pass defense inside the red zone specifically.
Right, but like, I guess, look, every team in every market in every city can do this. Like, I think this defense is better than where they've been in the last year or two. I really do. And yet we can always find stats that say they're not or they are. I can pull up stats that say that they're better in this area. Like, this is, again, the championship level problems that we're talking about here overall. Whereas we can mention how great they've been doing getting after the quarterback this year compared to other years. We all agree about that. And we can go and find a red zone touchdown stat that's not good enough.
I know, but that's when we're talking about that, very simply put, as I had said earlier, if they are an average red zone defense, they are a top 10 scoring defense, which means they have a top 10 defense and the number 1 offense in the NFL. That's a Super Bowl. Like, just that one thing. Not fixing anything else on the team. Just fixing one thing. Being a better red zone defense could be the difference in Kansas City between struggling to get a team off the field in the most important part of the field, like most teams do, and winning a Super Bowl. Because what you let up in those moments is inevitably what's been driving down their ability to keep scoring down defensively to a level that most championship teams have.
The numbers are the number. I just think there's always context that's needed. That's all. I mean, like we can pull up red zone attempts. How many of those attempts occurred when the Chiefs were up late in the fourth quarter by double digits? Honestly, there's way more to the story than just a flat percentage is all I'm saying.
Sure, but I mean, it's half of the way into the season. Like, I'm not saying there's not more than one thing factoring into it, but they weren't good at it last year, and they weren't good at it the year before. I mean, can we at least admit that if there's 2.5 years worth of evidence of a team not being particularly good,
yeah, they've struggled in the red zone.
Defense?
They've struggled in the red zone, but I would argue that's not why they haven't won the Super Bowl the last 2 years. They didn't lose in the Super Bowl to the Bucs because of their red zone defense. Because last year they didn't lose in the AFC title game because of red zone defense. 2 years ago it was the offensive line. Last year it was a defensive issue, but it was specifically in that game and
on
it was
offense.
the worst half of Mahomes' career. Makes no sense.
Yeah, but I think this year's problem could be red zone defense because I don't see any issues on offense that are hanging them up.
The Chiefs are allowing the 10th most red zone attempts per game in the NFL.
There you go. That's the number.
Which means they're also allowing teams in the red zone quite a bit, which is not great.
That is about, I mean, you could do the math, but it's 3.3 red zone attempts per game. And some of the defenses behind them, you just look at some of these teams, Washington, Chicago, Carolina, Detroit, the Chargers, the Giants, the Falcons, the Cardinals. So not defensive juggernauts.
No, see, actually, like that to me, that stat's more meaningful. Teams are getting.
You're welcome.
Teams are getting to the red zone on them more than on their opponents, and they're being able to score.
Are we still keeping track of score of points?
Oh,
here?
you want a point?
Well, yeah, over Cody. Cody didn't provide any context. Look what I did.
There's a point. We can erase the weights and add the point scale on the
Will you give me a
whiteboard.
point for that one?
Yeah, we each have 1 point. Gold has 0. You and I have a point. Gold has none.
Well, you still got time.
Fine.
You're not going to point for just coming back with fine. That's not how you're going to get points in this game. That's another thing you can add to the video stream, Nick. I'd like a permanent total on the bottom of the screen of our point total.
Can we also get a button installed where Nick or any of us can just around the horn style just mute you? You mute yourself sometimes already.
Yeah, I don't
but
need that.
But can we just mute it? Like, you know what?
Mute
minus
the live
points.
stream?
Minus
Wow.
2
Minus
points.
Technically,
You can
I
lose
have the
points
ability
now?
to do that at any time.
Nick can do that anyway, where it's like, nope, negative 1 point. 10-second timeout, basically.
I don't know if we need that.
I mean, that's given me a lot of power.
Yeah, and really just you. We can't ask engineering, who the last time we brought them up on the show was asking if equipment they gave us was defective, in which they were very defensive. It was not, and that it was human error on me instead. I don't think we can ask them to, hey, would you mind? I know that Nick has all those buttons that turns everyone's mics on and off. Do you mind if we get those same mic buttons, but on this side? Like, why? Because when the other person says something we don't like, we want the ability to turn off their thing. And we both need our own separate set of buttons for the 3 mics. Just the 3 buttons, though. So thanks.
Yeah, a little more context to that stat here. And I think what you'll find is more often than not, the teams that allow fewer red zone attempts per game allow a lower number of touchdowns in the red zone, i.e. they're good defenses. There are outliers like the Giants, who are, I believe, bottom 5 in the NFL. They allow the 5th most red zone attempts per game, yet they allow the 2nd least amount of touchdowns per game. But like the great defenses, the better defenses, Denver, Buffalo, the Rams, Dallas, those teams are all near the top of the league and not allowing them. And also, once you get down there, they still don't allow you. That's what a good defense would do, right?
But don't let you in the red zone and don't let you score when you're in it.
So
that does make sense.
you can always find
Nick.
you can probably find a hand. That seemed like you were patronizing me a little bit there. I don't appreciate it. You'll always find the outliers, like the teams who allow a lot of them, but then the bend but don't break. But more often than not, that's not a strategy as much as it is an outlier.
I think if you're a heavy turnover team, you can do that. Bob Sutton's defenses did that a lot. They were like 29th in yards, but consistently like 4th in the NFL in points allowed per game because they're a turnover team.
If you have Eric Berry and Marcus Peters in your secondary, ball hawks who aren't necessarily
and Tom
shut
and Justin
down.
Houston getting sacks that push people out, right?
Yeah.
And that's just touchdown percentage, man. Like, I'm not even saying they can't score to a certain number, but could you just keep them out of the end zone? Like, can you occasionally keep them from, like, if a team gets in the red zone right now, you can 7 times out of 10 assume that that's going in for a touchdown against the Chiefs? That's kind of a wild number. Honestly, if they weren't having as much time of possession or long drives as they do based on the way their offense is set, that number could be, their points per game on defense could be worse.
Wasn't it the first 7 weeks last year? There was like the running total on Twitter of every time an opponent got in the red zone and how it was like it was
100% of the time for like the first 5 weeks or 6 weeks.
Yeah, it was like the first 9 for 9 or something, or 10 for 10. Like that was last year, that conversation.
So I don't like that it keeps coming up.
But I'm saying, like, it feels weird because it's the bottom 3, but last year felt way worse.
The Chiefs are at 70%. The best teams in the league are around 40%. So there is a big, big gap between what the best teams are doing and the worst teams are doing.
Real mixed bag here, by the way. That's a useless stat without comparing it to every other team. Appreciate the exhaustive research, Nick. Finally, a relevant stat.
Yeah, that is a compliment to me
Yeah,
and a neg towards you.
I don't know. It was around the same time you were giving both. I stand by it.
It's a weird hill to die on.
Andy Reid spoke a little bit earlier today. You heard from him, and he at least publicly is saying this running back by committee thing's going to continue, and that Clyde would have got more time, but the possessions he was out there happened to be the 3-and-out possessions, and that's why it was Pacheco. I don't know if I buy that, but I do believe that Clyde is still going to get playing time for this team. I don't think we're going to be looking ahead and that Clyde's just sitting on the bench getting 6 snaps a game for the rest of the season. I do think truly the committee thing is a committee thing. Who the starter is, Pacheco. He's the starting running back. But I don't think we're going to see for the next 4 straight weeks that Clyde is getting 6 to 8 snaps a game and Pacheco's getting every other one. The only guy we know for sure is going to get snaps is McKinnon, because as Mahomes even was talking about, he's an unbelievable blocker. And for a running back, he's got some of the instincts, and they trust him as they should. He's fantastic. He's a great asset for this team, and they do like him in the passing game too. But Pacheco and Clyde, I do think there's going to still be some form of a rotation with these two guys.
I don't. This is the action speaks louder than word. You know how many times they've told me they've got some plan for Sky Moore? They don't. They don't have some plan to play him more. They can say they have a plan to play someone more.
The action for this season has been nothing but, you're telling me you want action. The action for this season has been nothing but running back by committee, essentially.
I know, but I think that they clearly made the switch. Like, to me...
Switch to the starter, yeah.
Yeah, but I think...
They did that for 2 weeks ago.
So they switched to Pacheco as a starter, and then now they've given him all the snaps, essentially, in a single game at the running back position. To me, those are the signs that we're moving on to there. Don't you think that in itself, you think there's a chance that Clyde's going to have another 8-9 carry game? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm the only person who's seeing this way. And they're paying a really bad run defense this weekend.
I think they go hot hand a lot.
So there's no, and I get it. Andy's argument was, we were going to give it, he fumbled, so then we gave it to Pacheco again. And he said, we were going to give it to Clyde, and it just happened to be a 3-and-out. He was going to get that whole drive, but it just, happened to be a 3-and-out. But how many times were you going to run it on that drive?
I'm agreeing with you. I don't buy the last game that it was just, he happened to be the back on the 3. And I don't buy that either. I'm just telling you that I don't think last week means that's how it's going to be the rest of the season. I think they truly will still find ways at times to utilize Clyde. It could be this week, or it could be in 2 weeks. Suddenly Clyde ends up running hard effectively in the first drive or two that he gets an opportunity, and they say they just stick with him because Andy does. When it comes to backs, he'll ride the hot hand. He has done that.
But that's the thing. He can just do that with Pacheco. Pacheco has gotten 15 carries or more in 3 games. Hand. Hold on. But he's gotten carries. When he's gotten 15 carries or more in all 3 games, he's averaged more than 5 yards a carry. Pacheco is the hot hand if you just give him the ball.
I'm talking about hot hand
saying
in
it's
a game.
predetermined.
When people say hot hand, we're talking about in the game, though. There's a momentum feeling to that.
Do you guys think there will be another game this year where Clyde leads the team in carries?
No.
In carries leading it, probably not. It'll be close, though. I think there'll be a game where we talk about them almost having even split, or Clyde finishes with more yards than Pacheco, yeah.
Yards, maybe, but carries, no.
Yeah.
I won't concede
I'm with you
that.
on the carries, yeah.
But that's quite a leap from where we started the season.
Oh, sure. Yeah,
The second we made a big deal about it on Monday. They benched Clyde Edwards-Helaire for a game, essentially. He got 6 snaps.
Yeah, that's it.
Got targeted twice. They were both incompletions. Look, I don't go as far as the Titans. I don't think it's a coincidence that the drives he were in on happened to be 3-and-out. But I think there were other things at play. I don't think just Clyde's
he only played
presence.
4 snaps. And 2 of the passes, one was behind.
He was open.
One
and
was
a bad
behind
pass.
him. So yeah, that one's not completely fair.
So Mahomes is sabotaging Clyde's snaps.
That's right. That's right.
Sorry, I didn't have reckless speculation queued up.
That would definitely fall into that category. That's for sure.
I guess. Although, we need some of these things to be visual, Nick. What are we going to do for reckless speculation on the video thing?
Unbelievable. How many homework assignments are you going to give me today?
So many. It's in its infancy, so we need as many things going on as possible. Just for, the 15 people who enjoy watching this show on video.
For now, maybe the bells and whistles will bring more people in.
The reckless speculation bell and whistle is going to do it?
Yes.
Okay. I think for all 32, we shall wear helmets. Helmets for the team that we're going to talk about. So we should get 32 NFL team helmets.
So just put how about a hat? Why a helmet? You know how expensive that is?
Store them in here.
How expensive that is? We're going to get 32 NFL
what do you think,
helmets.
32 team hats are going to be cheap?
Way cheaper than helmets. yeah, I do actually. How about a T-shirt?
Yeah, Cody
How
was
about a towel?
So I brought up one idea about for the NFL whip around, which we do, which is sort of like barnyard country themed. That we could all just get those really cheap, $4 hats.
Yeah.
And then I should have never brought that up because now Cody wants to do costumes for every segment that we do.
I like
For
the
trash
idea.
of the day, he wants us dressed up as trash cans.
We'll all get Oscar the Grouch costumes.
Random questions of the day. We have to wear a
All right,
black
that's it.
T-shirt
Go.
that has a giant question on
One
it.
thing you have
These
to
are-
do in this break is
Okay.
go down to your car,
Oh,
check
and
for
see
that
if it's
Nutcracker
there.
costume so we can make Nick wear it tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll
Or
check.
Friday when
Why
Rob
do you need to
Collins
do it during the break? Just do it after the show.
I'll do it after the show. I don't remember if I took it out of the trunk or not. It still might be sitting in there from last November or whatever that was. Whenever I did that.
Someone says
Hopefully
they'd
it's still-
watch.
it might be. Nick might get lucky though. I don't even know if it might be all messed up. I don't even know if it's been in the trunk
Mangled?
for a month. I don't know.
Yeah, he'll be fine.
It wasn't exactly in pristine condition the first time you wore it.
No.
I mean, it's
I know the one thing that we don't have anymore is the foot covers because those barely stayed on at the time when we first got them. So the foot cover things.
So you just threw them away or what?
Well, remember they fell off in the middle of the night when we went out drinking.
I don't remember that.
Well, I
As
do.
evidenced by the
I do
conversation that
remember.
we're having now.
The foot, they
apparently.
were like felt. Like they didn't even.
Oh,
they
it's kind of like laid on top of your shoe.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, good news is nobody on the video stream was going to see that out of Nick anyway, so it's fine.
Coming up next, we will get to what's trending here on Cody and Gold and back into the Royal Stadium and what that project could look like and what actually the biggest challenges are. Next. which everybody's kind of confused by that. It was injury last week, but they're calling it an illness to his abdomen. Also, as expected, Juju Smith-Schuster remains in concussion protocol, as does Chris Lamons. And then MVS is sick, will not practice today. Those are the guys not practicing today. Good news, Frank Clark back from suspension. Also, Andrew Wiley, despite leaving the game on Sunday. He's got a brace, Andy said, on his elbow, but he is practicing and appears to be fine for the Chiefs heading in to this weekend's game out in L.A.
Good that he'll be there, although I think Prince played pretty well under considering the circumstances. A lot of this is, are you somehow going to be more hurt at the wide receiver position than the Chargers have been up to this point? And I don't think we'll have an answer to that till later on in the week. Next up on What's Trending, of course, the biggest story in Kansas City, the Royals announced further downtown plans. In a long letter from John Sherman, he talked about a $2 billion project, not all publicly funded, by the way, but just a $2 billion project that includes office buildings, hotels, apartments, shopping area, and, of course, a stadium in or around downtown in the Kansas City area, with their plans obviously moving a little bit forward. They said they're going to explore it and speak, maybe even have it might sound like they might have a full-blown public forum over the concerns or conversations around it, but they're making it very clear. If they hadn't already, they're moving downtown at some point.
Yeah, they will not be playing Kauffman Stadium when or before that lease expires for them out of that.
2030? Is that when it expires?
I think that is correct.
I think they'll be in their new stadium long before that.
I agree. And we'll talk more about this Royal Stadium project coming up right after What's Trending as well. Next up on What's Trending, because last night, if you stayed up, there was college basketball on still. Maybe you were up till midnight or so watching it. KU in the
Nick
Champions
showed up a little
Classic.
bit later than normal today. I thought maybe he was enjoying that Kansas game a little too much.
I was tired.
It was the game so the Champions Classic last night, you had Kentucky and Michigan State goes to double overtime. Then you have the break in between. Then KU and Duke finally started, and so it was a late night if you stayed up watching that. KU got the win, by the way. They closed strong in that game. There was a crucial moment, three straight buckets, I guess it would have been, from Grady Dick, who was fantastic down the stretch for the team, and they close it out without Bill Self. Even though he traveled the team, Cody wasn't sure why he traveled, but he was there. Norm Roberts.
Well, no, Cody was sure. It was to party.
It was to party.
Oh, yeah. Norm Roberts.
Got extra time to party, that double overtime.
KU stays undefeated on the very young season.
Norm's team now, man.
They're undefeated without their guy Bill Self. And beating a top what, 7 team? What was Duke ranked?
Number 7, number 6. Yeah, number 7, number 6 game last night. So
lastly, on What's Trending, a tough hit for the Philadelphia Eagles after their first loss of the season on Monday night. Dallas Goedert headed to the IR. He'll spend 4 weeks away from the team at least during this time. But on the other end, the Arizona Cardinals getting Hollywood Brown designated return from injured reserve. So maybe they'll get him back on the field here soon enough.
And Dallas Goedert on Monday Night Football got hurt on that play that there was a face mask missed by the refs. And that's what's brought up the discussion again, whether or not you should be able to review personal foul type penalties. Player safety and personal foul penalties, should they be reviewable? I actually think they should. I also think I agree with Bill Belichick that inside 2 minutes, allow coaches to challenge those as well. That's What's Trending here on Cody and Gold. Of course, we'll hand things off to CDOT in the drive here in about 25 minutes. But the number one story still in Kansas City today centers around this $2 billion stadium project. And again, it is a ballpark district that the Royals are proposing. They intend to leave Kauffman Stadium. And there's a lot of questions that still have to be answered. I mean, one, the final location, not determined yet. We know KC-Mo and near or downtown.
And we've seen 4 or 5 of the sites they're considering.
Yeah, East Village is one of them. There's a few others as well. That's stuff that will have to be ironed out. They still have to finalize the financing here. I understand in the letter, John Sherman said if you're a Jackson County resident, you're paying Jackson County taxes, that your taxes will not increase from where they're at. We'll see if that actually happens. I'm assuming that means an extension of whatever the current stadium taxes are, or whatever they're getting already. Right? We'll see if that actually happens. $2 billion means there's money coming in from Jackson County taxes, ownership, the state, the city. That's all the stuff that has to get figured out and how that gets divvied up from the financial side of things. And I think there's a lot of questions just in general, like what does it ultimately look like? The plan is hotels, restaurants, office space, retail, residential. If you've been to a baseball stadium outside of this city, there's a decent chance it was a downtown stadium. Not 100, but there's a decent chance it was a downtown stadium.
Most likely. if you went to Pittsburgh or
Cleveland, St. Louis,
AT&T or whatever it's called now in San Francisco,
Yeah, they changed the name of that thing like 8 times.
Minnesota. Like there's and I'm not going to learn all the new ones. I don't care.
Target Field, that's an easy one.
Yeah,
Up in
and I don't think
Minnesota.
they're going to change it because Target
They're based
started there, so
yeah.
it seems unlikely that they're going to change the name. Although I don't know. After all those years, I guess I never thought it wouldn't be Heinz Field in Pittsburgh for the Steelers, and yet it's not anymore. It's I don't remember. It doesn't really matter. It's called something else. Acrisure? Is that what they were?
I think, yeah, sounds right.
Is that right?
Anyway.
Not really important. But when you look at what we're talking about in these deals, I think there's good and bad like anything else. I don't think that they're being completely disingenuous when they say, hey, it's a $2 billion project. We're not asking you for $2 billion. Because when you hear $2 billion project, you're like, I'm sorry, excuse me? You want me to pay $2 billion? We're not going to do that. And then we're going to have to what? Do a $3 billion stadium for the Chiefs? So you want us, Kansas City, Jackson County, to pay $5 billion? Like, that's not what they're asking. I don't think that's anywhere close to what they'll ask for these 2 stadium projects as they go on. But it's a big price tag. And I told you how I feel about publicly funded stadiums in general. And I don't think that we should have any tax burden. But I also understand that this is going to occur. I currently live in Clay County now, not Jackson. So I've had the opportunity to vote for and paid the taxes relative to those things. But I won't currently based on where I live. But I wouldn't vote for it just because I think you could probably privately finance it. Between Major League Baseball and the state and yourself, I think you could probably pay for it. But generally speaking, I like the idea of a downtown stadium. It sounds cool.
Yeah, look,
Seems like what progressive cities do and big league ball clubs do, and it seems like the kind of fun atmosphere that most teams have adopted for this sport.
The questions are more than fair, but I'm pumped. I mean, I'm certainly excited. This is something that is not just the last 2 years suddenly came out of nowhere. This has been talked about for quite some time. Long before even really John Sherman. I mean, that was before John Sherman took over. This is something that baseball fans have acknowledged because they've seen where it's gone for the sport. These new stadiums are built downtown for the most part, and they're built with entertainment districts or ballpark villages, district, whatever you want to call it, a district, a village, whatever.
They're only ever built downtown or like 40 minutes outside of city limits where they'll let them do all the tax stuff they're talking about.
Yeah, typically.
Like they go to Cobb County, right?
Sure, down in Atlanta, yeah.
Yep, or they go to Arlington, right? They moved even further out. I don't remember the city they even ended up with the Rangers. But it wasn't even originally as close to the Metropolitan as they were before. That's the only 2 options. Go downtown or move further out of town. Nobody really builds new stadiums the way where the Chiefs is now, where it's 15 minutes outside of downtown or 10 minutes outside of downtown, but with no development around it.
Yeah, look, the scenario that I picture and the reason why I'm excited is it is that random Tuesday night, and you're thinking about what that night could be like other than just the baseball game. You know, you can go down there and have drinks or dinner before the game because there will be restaurants available right there within walking distance of the baseball stadium. Right now, we all know the setup right there at Truman Sports Complex. And Kauffman Stadium is a great place to watch baseball. Nobody is disputing that. There's a lot of history there, no doubt. But we all know across the street is what? A gas station and a Taco Bell, a vacant hotel, and then a Denny's further down the road. Like, come on.
We used to all go meet at the Adams Mart to drive over, man. Come on.
Yeah, and they've had 50 years to develop that area, and it hasn't happened. It hasn't.
That's the problem, is that you could say, and they said it would cost about the same to renovate Kauffman Stadium, and they said construction costs, which I assume would be related to building things in addition to the stadium there, right? Like it would cost us as much to just renovate the stadium and fix the concrete issues and all that.
That's what they're saying.
And build all the stuff around it, presumably, the $2 billion estimate that they're putting on it, as it would cost them to put there. And if you're doing that, I mean, it's just like some of these things are very simple, like progressive city things. And they're right. This is a little bit if you give the mouse a cookie. It's like, well, then how long before the Chiefs want a new stadium? Pretty much immediately, man. I don't know how to break this to everybody, but if the Royals get a new stadium, the Chiefs aren't going to be like, cool, man, ours is nice. We're fine. Actually, you know what, guys? We're good here. We don't want a new stadium with all the cool amenities and all the extra revenue we could earn. We're fine. Because think about it, like there are reports. Bill Plaskey was reporting today that the Raiders wouldn't mind firing Josh McDaniels, but can't.
Yeah, they don't
because
have
they're
cash
too
on hand.
broke. They don't have enough cash flow to just get rid of their guy. I don't want my ownership in that situation either. It's just a matter of, you know, like the cost benefit analysis. And I always think that some of the like projections of how much economic impact it's going to have on the city or how many jobs it's going to create. I always feel like those numbers are a little inflated. I feel like they're based on these studies that nobody ever follows up on to make sure that it actually created that. And for the few people who have, it doesn't ever create what they say it will. But I don't doubt that it's good for the city and will create jobs. I just don't know that it's ever quite as big as they make it.
Yeah, and I think, look, you said you're not a fan of publicly funded stadiums. I don't know who is other than owners. You know what I mean? Like, so
people are more tolerant of it. Like, you aren't a fan of it, but you'd still vote for it.
Yeah.
That to me is the difference.
No,
I wouldn't.
I know, but like you said, you said, I'm not a fan of it. Again, I don't know who's a fan of paying more taxes. So I mean, like, so I understand.
I don't know. A guy in the text line earlier said, just tax me for everything. Give me all the new stuff. Give me new Kaufman, airport.
My point being is, like,
streetcar, whatever.
In this perfect scenario, you're right. Owners in the league should pay for every stadium. Unfortunately, we have seen, with the exception of, I believe, the Warriors Stadium there in the Bay Area, Chase Arena, 100% privately funded. Good for them. Good for that. Good for them for doing that. Unfortunately, that's the outlier. It just is. It sucks because we do know the game plan, how this has worked in other cities, right? And it's always that.
It's like getting swindled and still knowing it's going to happen.
It's always that threat that's never really said fully because we know the reality. You know that
especially in
these cities, in these cities where stadium projects haven't come together, teams have left, and I know that sucks. That should even be a worry, but that is the unfortunate thing. That's always like nobody says that, but it's always back there. Like you're gonna have to do this or else. They're not saying that, but we know what happens in these other cities. Where look at San Diego with the Chargers, look at Oakland with the Raiders. We do know what happens when unfortunately. There is a public steps up and says, no, we aren't going to pay for that. Those cities have lost their team.
Yeah, and the
good news
Las
is, right,
Vegas Athletics will be playing there very soon as a result of that. Although they did finally approve the stadium deal, and it turned out they were just trying to get out anyway.
Yes.
But so it's not a bad thing. I think overall, I'm for this plan. I really am. I like the general area of town they're thinking about doing it for. I could see why having a big collective area that people congregate in your city is good. Because I asked that question earlier. Where's the place in Kansas City that if a big group of people come into this city, where do they conglomerate on? And the answer is probably the plaza, an area that has very serious limitations in its ability to host things that way. Every time something cool comes to the city, like the draft, we take them down to Union Station, but then we don't put enough around. There's like the Crossroads is built up quite a bit. There are parts of the town that have really grown quite a bit.
Oh, we've made great progress in the city downtown compared to where it was 10 or 15. Exactly. And that's where I'm with you on that. And that's the thing. There are new challenges that can be presented by having a downtown ballpark district. There's no doubt. There's a chance. Yeah, there could be on some nights some more traffic. Yeah. There is a chance of that. Your city is growing. There is a chance. Like
you drove in Houston. How much worse was the traffic there than here?
Oh, yeah. So that's the funny thing is like
our traffic's pretty good. So a little bit worse doesn't seem all that bad.
We don't have traffic.
You refuse to acknowledge that we have traffic at all?
After living in Houston,
we have traffic.
After living in Houston, we don't have traffic. You want traffic? Go and look. By the way, I'm not saying I want to be Houston by any means, but like Houston has traffic. Chicago has traffic. LA has traffic. We don't have a traffic problem in this city. And the idea that 40,000 people on Tuesday night are going to a Royals game, we know that's not happening. So like when Taylor Swift, now she's doing the Arrowhead tour, but let's say Taylor Swift's having a concert at T-Mobile Center, let's just say, and there's 20,000 people down there, and it's a little bit of a pain to get out of a parking garage, which still, compared to other cities, not that big of a deal. On a Tuesday night Royals game, you told me the average attendance. Now, I hope the attendance goes up by having a new stadium and everything, but you told me the average attendance.
It would for the first
year,
right?
You told me the average on a Tuesday night baseball game, it was like 9,000 or something for a Tuesday night game. So the idea that suddenly you're just going to have 30,000 people every single night at a baseball stadium and it's going to cause all kinds of problems downtown is also not realistic, even in the best case scenario for the stadium. Like, you want people down there, but the idea that it's just going to be so problematic, and the parking stuff is always funny to me.
Nick seemed very worried about the parking earlier. So.
Yeah.
You just got to have places to park, guys.
Yeah.
I understand.
And I think that you guys, you guys always dream big, but you don't think about the logistics. You are so obsessed with getting this downtown stadium gold. What if there's nowhere to park?
I think there'll be...
How are people going to get to the stadium? And once they get there... What do they do with their cars? Had you considered that?
I think here's a couple things with that.
First, improve public transit. Let's just start
yeah,
there.
Yeah, I mean that definitely has to
Okay, well,
happen
let's not
in general.
get too political, but go ahead.
What?
Because I said improve public transportation?
That has to happen. I also think there's more parking downtown than people realize. Just because you can't see it, literally see it from the street level. There's something called underground parking as well, and you can build up. That's the great thing about parking.
Wait, you can build up?
Believe it or not, parking...
Buildings can go taller?
Yeah, believe it or not, parking doesn't have to be one giant 25,000 car lot. There's in other down...
We've been fooled.
That, believe it or not...
By Arrowhead and Kaufman for years.
That's not the only way to do parking. I know this is stunning, Nick, but you don't have to have one 20,000 car lot.
Hey, can I light up a grill underground?
It's difficult, because you once sent a tweet from a parking garage at T-Mobile complaining of the traffic in which you had to leave a parking situation that was difficult downtown. Are you sure?
I didn't pull a Dana Wright, and I didn't go live on and ask the cops for help or whatever.
That's true. You did tweet about it, but no, you're right. You did not go full Dana Wright.
Yeah, nobody's saying that there won't be traffic leaving a game. But the idea that it's going to be this huge nightmare.
If there's going to be traffic, I'm out. If there's traffic, I'm out.
We all go to we go to Chiefs games for crying out
Nick went on
loud, and
Sunday.
it takes an hour and a half to get out of that huge parking lot that's just so convenient for everybody.
Well, that's because they've decided that you're only allowed to exit through two ways, which is insane considering the shape and exit numbers of the parking lot.
I just think there's more parking downtown already than people realize. Yeah, you know what? You might have to walk a little bit further. Yeah, that's true. And maybe that might be inconvenient for people. Like downtown, that gets like again. Someone should go
Another
to
town, just get a pedicab or whatever. I'm sure there'll be people doing that kind of stuff around.
It's an adjustment. People sometimes can be afraid of change. Same way, there's people that are against the new airport.
Whatever happened to just keeping
People didn't
things
like the new airport
same
because,
forever?
Well, that's people like the old airport because it takes 10 minutes to get through security. Doesn't mean we should just keep the same old crappy airport. And we didn't, fortunately. We're getting a new one in 2 months.
Please don't badmouth the airport.
Are you going to defend the airport?
You know what?
It's dumb.
Planes come, planes
No,
go.
the
I'm in,
the
I'm
tailgate
out.
is the argument.
Not that many planes come and go. Not as many as other airports.
If I can't grill a pack of Nathan's hot dogs.
When's the last time you tailgated at a Royals game, Nick? How many Royals games did you go to last year?
This past season? You're talking about this past season?
Yes.
This season
How many
right
have
here.
you gone the last 5 years combined?
So the most recent season
Yes.
that I went to.
Yes.
Yes.
And we're talking Royals here.
Yes.
Correct.
If I'm gonna ballpark it,
Ballpark
you know, no pun intended.
How
right?
many?
Because we're talking about the new ballpark, so there's a little pun there for you.
Okay, so the pun was intended. Noted.
Okay, so if I'm adding up all the games, I'd say it was roughly around 2.
So it was 2. You went to 2? That's most people, by the way. I don't think that's an uncommon number. That's what's
Yeah.
crazy to me about like the complaint about the abilities. Like,
Yes.
what are you going to go to? Like 2?
Yes. Now, look, they're obviously the Royals are hoping you start going to more than 2 a year. But yes, I got you.
No, I mean, if every Royals fan went to a couple, I think they'd be fine because there's plenty of people who go to 0.
Yeah, like every yeah. I mean, that's like saying like if everybody in the city just decided to go to there's no way to quantify that necessarily. I don't know what in most cities how many games an average fan goes to on a winning baseball team. Last year, I'm not faulting anybody. The team wasn't any good. The product stunk.
I guess that's a very simple question. I'm curious about the text line 913-586-7610. You don't consider the tailgating experience at Kaufman equal to what you do at Arrowhead, right?
No. It's
I'm
just
not saying
nice that
people
you have
don't
the ability.
tailgate at Kaufman. I'm not saying that never happens at a Royals
Not
game.
nearly as much, though.
But it's not the same experience. Because, like, to me, Arrowhead would likely, the new Arrowhead, would just be built where Kaufman is now, and that tailgating experience wouldn't change. That massive parking lot full of a gajillion spots and a mess getting in and out, that will still exist for you, just in a slightly different way. And the tailgating experience is something that Chiefs ownership will be very mindful of. But it's not like the thing that you tie to the fabric of your being, I feel like, the way tailgating at Arrowhead is, right?
Of course not. Yeah, no, the Chiefs tailgate experience, it's nice to have the ability if you want to, but there's far less people that are tailgating for a baseball game. Now, look, again, there is some above-ground parking that's going to be – nobody's saying that there's going to be flat surface lots downtown that already exist that I don't know what the rules are with all that downtown, but, like, who's to say you couldn't still set up a small tailgate? Do you go to every – I think Kling brought up a great point this morning when he was talking about this. Like, even if there's people tailgating at the Truman Sports Complex for a Royals game, it's not as if you're going and talking to everybody. You're still with your one group. So if I tell you there's a downtown lot that lets you
Anywhere
put out
I
a
can
grill,
park, then yeah.
And that lets you put a grill there, you can still tailgate with your 10 friends. No, you're not going and talking to 1,000 people during your tailgate.
That's not how I do it. No.
No?
Maybe Nick does, though. He seems the one to be most worried about this.
Mm-hmm.
Man of the
Anyway,
people.
it's gonna be okay. There's a lot of questions that still need to be answered.
So I don't
but
have a private shuttle that takes me up to the suite like you guys do.
A private shuttle?
Excuse me.
There's a shuttle that
Picks you
goes
up
to
at-
the suites? That's new.
I heard it was like a Maybach that it picks you up and it
Cody?
drops you right off at the suite entrance.
Cody was.
I don't recall that.
Only one of us has been in the suite this year so far.
Really? Just me?
Just you so far, yeah.
Wow. That's weird. That's uncommon for you.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you've made it to the club level a couple of times.
Yeah.
But not into a suite, huh?
No.
Not all of us are so status obsessed.
Someone says
Cody.
Nick is
What did you
mad.
sit, like row 7 the other day?
I don't know. I didn't count rows, It was pretty far up there, though.
Someone says getting your 10 friends to the same parking lot will be the issue. They
No,
might have to
everyone
block,
goes-
They might have to walk a couple blocks to then meet you. One person hosts
Fair,
the
but
tailgate, and
that's
you go
it.
and walk.
Everyone parks. One person has the tailgate stuff. That's what I would recommend. But
Thanks for
gonna be
hanging out
different,
with
but
us
it'll be good.
today. Really appreciate it, as always. We're back at it tomorrow from 10 to 2. The Drive coming up next.